I'll be on the YouTube link, and I'll look at that.
One person please leave and just drop a message in the chat box that you can view this webinar on YouTube link. I'm sharing the link.
Are you putting it in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am. I will. Okay, wait. I'm just
Again, it's 100 participants.
I dropped a streaming link on chat box. You can cross check.
yeah. Thank you, Rachna. Thank you.
Ask the girls to.
Yeah, Manisha. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. We have already completed the 100. So they are able but they can watch out this on live. We are sending the YouTube link. Yeah, I'm sending. Okay. Okay, definitely.
And ma'am, the recording is not started yet. When do you suggest?
Start.
Noshin ma'am, can you make Geetika Malayala's host so that she'll be recording? She's
okay.
on.
Okay.
Yeah. You can remove me as co-host as well.
Mr. Mukherjee is coming.
Yes, ma'am. I just called him. He's
he's. I've admitted him. Check out with him.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning,
Dr. Mukherjee. Dr. Mukherjee, welcome.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Noshin.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
Dr. Mukherjee, you're a little less audible.
Is it better now, ma'am?
Yes, better.
It's better.
Oh.
Ramya.
A very good morning to Professor Neela Golapudi, ma'am, respected faculty, and all my dear friends present here. I am Ramya, MBA first year, Department of Business Management, Kasturiba Gandhi College for Women's, welcoming you all for the today's webinar program on leadership and excellence. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Biswajit Mukherjee, sir, present here to share his knowledge and views on leadership and excellence. Firstly, I would request Neela ma'am to give a welcome speech.
Thank you so much, Ramya. And it's indeed a pleasure, Dr. Biswajit Mukherjee, to have you here with us. And, we are able to host this webinar on leadership and excellence. And I think the present times actually are showing up the leadership vacuum across the nation. So I think it's a very topical topic, I should say. It's so very relevant in today's time, and it's always been the case. And a crisis actually is the one which shows up the leadership skills in people. And I think this is definitely a learning experience for everyone concerned, whether they're in a leadership role or not. And so thank you so much for suggesting this topic. And I think indeed it's a pleasure to have you here with us. And briefly, I'd like to tell you something about our college so that you have an idea of who we are talking to. This college, Kasturba Gandhi College, was set up by a trust, the Exhibition Society, Osmania Graduates Association. Osmania Graduates Association is the largest alumni association in Asia. And as you know, Hyderabad was under the Nizam's rule. So at that point of time, there were very limited opportunities for education. So this Osmania Graduates Association set up quite a few educational institutions across the state of Telangana. And it's a non-profit organization, and they usually conduct an annual Numaish, as it's called, typically in Hyderabad lingo, the industrial exhibition. And the proceeds from that actually go on to support these 18 colleges, 18 educational institutions. And majority of them happen to operate, the majority of these colleges are meant for women. They're exclusively for women. So there's also women empowerment, there is education. So this is the background of the college. And coming to the department, this department was set up in 1994, and we are now 27 years old. And a lot of our students have passed out in these 27 years. And we actually have a variety of students who come from different cross sections of the society, and we try to offer our best to them, try to give them quality education. And one of the things, key cornerstones of the philosophy of the department is that they have to be good citizens and also good professionals. So that's the twin objectives that we have. And any activity that we take should have this particular agenda for us. So when you've come forward to speak on leadership, we are looking at our students being exposed to being even leaders at home, not just in case they are not interested in taking up any kind of a job. Being at home also requires a certain leadership, leading the home. So we are expecting that. And I'm so delighted, Dr. Mukherjee, that you have taken time out to be with us. And I know how tough things are these days, and I'm sure it's jam-packed for you, just as it is for us. And coming from a triple IT, I understand that your time is, tightly apportioned to different activities. So I'm so very thankful to you and welcome. And I'm delighted to have you with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Mukherjee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would request Dr. Naushin Sultana ma'am to give a brief note on today's webinar.
Very good morning to our director, ma'am, Professor Neela Golapudi, and I welcome Dr. Biswajit Mukherjee, faculty, and my dear friends. I'm here to give a brief note on today's topic, leadership and excellence. Over the past 2 decades, the general interest in leadership has grown exponentially. And the topic of leadership has engaged organizations and individuals alike, probably more than any other management topic. At present, many top companies are increasingly investing in development programs. According to IBM Global Human Capital, it indicates that 80% of the firms consider building leadership talent to be the most significant challenge, as the companies feel that their workforce lack these leadership skills, which are very essential for a company to sustain. The current organizations are in need of effective leaders, as the global economy is transforming into an integrated market full of opportunities, competition, and thrilling change. And such change comes with a share of challenges. Here, I would like to ask the students, do you think, are you geared up to face this change? Do you feel that you have the necessary skills to rise up above these challenges? And also, I want to ask, do you feel that you believe that you are there is a leader in you? If your answer is no, then this webinar will help you to learn the importance of leadership skills and how can we achieve excellence through traits and soft skills. In words of Aristotle, excellence is not what we repeatedly do, but rather it's a habit. So we actually nurture this habit we actually encourage the students in the college to develop these skills. Here, I would like to mention that our department strongly believes in the holistic development of the student. Apart from the academic learning in the classroom, we nurture students to develop those skills which inculcate the traits like diligence, generosity, interest, integrity, and persistence, which enhances and improves our competence not only at individual level but prove to be effective at workplace. Here, I like to thank Neela ma'am for her visionary leadership and empowering each of us to make our departmental vision into reality. Thank you, ma'am, for giving this opportunity. And I like to thank, sincere thank to Dr. Biswajit, sir. I just want to mention a special thank to Rachna for constantly helping me in designing the flyer. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like my friend Ashwini to introduce the today's speaker.
Ashwini.
Sorry, ma'am.
Digital competence. No.
Okay. Good morning to all present here. I am G. Ashwini, MBA first year, Department of Business Management. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Biswajit Mukherjee, who will enlighten us on the most interesting subject, leadership and excellence. Coming to the academic background, he pursued his MTech as a first rank holder and completed his PhD from IIT Bombay and currently working as an assistant professor in PDPM IIIT Jabalpur. Coming to achievements and awards, he received the departmental fellowship during his MTech program and also received fellowship for training of young scientists from MPCST. He also awarded as a young faculty in engineering by Venus International Foundation and young engineer in Institution of Engineers India. Mr. Mukherjee was awarded as a young scientist in 31st Union Radio Scientific International, General Assembly and Scientific Symposium. Besides that, he authored and co-authored 80 research articles in peer-reviewed journals and conferences. He has completed 5 research projects funded by various organizations. Today, he is with us to share his insights on the topic leadership and excellence, which has become a requisite skill in 21st century. And being a management student, we need to understand inculcating leadership skills will have a predominant effect on our personal as well as professional life. We are geared up to listen you, sir. With that, let's welcome him to the meeting with a great applause. Dr. Biswajit Mukherjee, please proceed with your session, sir. Thank you.
Right. So can I do the screen share, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I will do that. I'm not getting the option here for sharing.
If
Do
you
a
check out
multiple
the
screen share.
Yes,
just a
I
multiple screen.
have. Yes, I have enabled the option, so now you can.
Yeah.
You stop sharing your screen now, Sheen.
Now it's okay. It's okay with me. So, is the screen visible, ma'am?
No. Nausheen, you should
Yes,
stop
ma'am.
sharing
Yes,
your
ma'am.
screen.
I will do that.
You stop your screen share. Yes. Now it's visible, Dr. Mukherjee.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks to Dr. Nausheen Sultana, because she's been instrumental in coordinating the whole thing with me, like for quite a long time. So a special thanks to you, ma'am, Nausheen ma'am. And I would rather begin by quoting to the students themselves that when you talk about leadership and excellence, I think you should actually look up to Professor Golapuri herself, because no, she's herself with her illustrious career. I think she has set herself as a leader, not only to the students who've already graduated, but also to the students who would be joining your organization. So, ma'am, thank you so much. And I think the very fact that you're an inspiration to quite, hundreds and thousands of such women is really remarkable, ma'am. It's really remarkable, because in an age where we are talking about gender equality, in an age where we are talking about emancipation of the women, in a certain age where we are talking about how to bring forward women in the mainstream, I think the roles that you people are pursuing is really remarkable and an example before everybody in the society. So it's rather an honor on my part, and a big thanks to Dr. Nausheen again, that I could be associated with your college, and it's a real matter of honor and privilege both. Having said that, now let me first start with leadership, excellence, traits, and soft skills. There are four important terms that we will actually have a look onto. What is leadership? What is excellence? What is trait? And what is soft skills? And why particularly, in this particular time period, people are running after leadership and excellence? Why is it so very important? Something which, a kind of a pain point which Professor Neela has already hit on, that when you talk about leadership, it is not just the leadership that you need to take up in front of the society, or you have to take up a certain major role. Well, Srimati Indira Gandhi always stands as one of the epitome examples before anybody, because she has ruled this country. She has been the prime minister of this country at a age when women did not have so much of privilege. Having said that, it just does not mean that every time when you talk about a leader, it has to be either Srimati Indira Gandhi, or late Srimati Indira Gandhi, or it has to be an example in terms of Srimati Mamata Banerjee, or it has to be Srimati Susma Swaraj only. No, it can also be Saina Nehwal, very much from the Nizam city, because she has also broken the taboo. She has also broken all the barriers in order to set herself as an example of excelling in her own domain, as an example of not only excelling but setting up a benchmark which makes her a leader. So when you talk about a leadership, you have to first understand the term, that it begins with lead, then it goes to leader, and then finally it moves to leadership. So it's a three-step process through which you have to undergo. So this whole presentation that we'll be talking about with all the students shall talk about, first, what is leadership, then we'll come to excellence, and then we'll come to what are the different traits and soft skills and why they are so important in order to bring forward any of these leadership qualities. Because you have to be aware of something, that even if you are quoting a sports legend like Sana Nehwal or PV Sindhu, you are quoting an example like Srimati Smriti Zubin Irani, who is the current cabinet minister. You quote an example of Sushri Mamata Banerjee, who is currently the chief minister of West Bengal, and has set up an example wherein she had a direct confrontation with with the central government, and yet she had a majority to take over in the recent Vidhan Sabha elections. Now, when you quote all these examples, you have to understand there is a certain soft skills which all of these legends, all of these people have maintained. Now, why these soft skills are important? So the question of knowing why and the capability in order to ask, to be able to ask this question why, you should know, you should have the first word which is called know, leading you to something which is called as knowledge. So when you move on through this journey, leadership, excellence, trade, soft skills, knowledge, you have to first understand the very basic root of each of these words: lead, excel, and know. These three things are actually going to take you forward towards leadership, excellence, and knowledge. This is exactly what we'll actually talk of, and we'll take some case studies, we'll take some small examples also on how this is actually taken care of. Now, when I quote a leader, the first example that comes across my mind is the people's president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So he was known as Missile Man of India. And what made him one of the greatest leaders of all time is the fact that he was a human and treated everybody equal. Now, when it comes to setting him as an example of leadership, what makes him, what actually takes him to the word excellence? Now, many of you might not be aware of, that's why I'll just add to the knowledge of all the students, that he is, he was awarded Bharat Ratna not because he was the president of country, but because of the excellence that he gathered. And what was the excellence? He's one of those rarest scientists who has worked on two diversified set of technologies, two diversified set of streams of technologies. The first contribution which comes across is aerospace, avionics, and space research. The first satellite launch vehicle, SLV, that we had, through the first rocket that was launched in India, was a contribution of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And his second milestone was the nuclear science program, especially the 1997 nuclear tests which were conducted at Pokhran, which was again under the aegis leadership of Professor APJ Abdul Kalam. His third part, which many of us have actually not we are not aware of, is he was a great teacher. So his personal secretary, PA, I'll just take a break for a second. His personal secretary had once asked him, how do you want people to know you as? Was it that people should know you as the president of the country? Is it that you want people to know you as a great scientist? Is it that you want people to know you as a great philosopher, which you are? Or you want people to know you for your scientific contributions? Or you want people to know you for your rational decision that you had taken? What is that something, which inspires you? His straight answer was, I want people to know me as a teacher, and I want to die by teaching students. And what an illustrious life he had. I'm sure that all of you are well aware of that. He collapsed, what he wanted, he got it. He collapsed delivering his last lecture at the RGIIM Shillong, where he was delivering and asking students about the economic growth and development which this country should envisage for the future to come. Now, that is called excellence, and that's called the crave to excel, the crave to learn and to deliver, which sets him apart from almost everybody in his league and sets him as the people. That is why the title was given to him as the People's President of India. Now, that is called remarkable achievement. Now, he was not, one of his exceptional example, again, because most of you are management students, and it's a management school also. So one of the best examples of Professor Kalam's greatness that I'll actually share with all of you there is a leading cruise missile which India manufactures today. It's called BrahMos Aerospace. And BrahMos Aerospace is a collaboration of a joint venture of the Russian government and the Indian government. So now this dates back to around 1990s when Professor Kalam was associated with the Defense Ministry, and Professor Kalam visited Russia. So when he visited Russia, the Russian people, they showed him the engines and they said that, sir, we have got these wonderful cryogenic engines, but we are not in a position to use them, well, because we don't have funds. So Dr. Kalam, checked out all the engines, checked out everything about the cryogenic set, and then he came back to India and he said that let's, try to collaborate and try to do something out of the Indo-Russian collaboration and deliver something to the world which is exceptional. Now,
Sorry, sir. Your voice is not loud.
Is it better now?
Now it's okay.
Yeah. So when he came back to India, his aim was, how do we ensure that the Indo-Russian collaboration of this cryogenic missiles, this cruise missile, leads to something, something which is remarkable in a set. So when he came back, he discussed with his financial counterparts, with the finance ministry, and people said that, sir, it can be if we go for a 49-51 share, with Indian government as 49 and 51 from the Russian government, then it is not going to be a venture from government of India. In fact, Russians will have a higher stake, which Russia was not ready to take care of. Why? Because they did not have so much of funds. And if it becomes 51 and 49, in that case, the problem is that it will become a perfect public sector undertaking. Now, if it becomes public sector undertaking, it has to undergo all sorts of government, rules, protocols, everything, which, Professor Kalam was not possibly ready, because he said that we need a technology which has to be rolled out as an example for the world. So what to do? When the defense and finance ministry people approached him, he said, these are the rules that we have. So Professor Kalam's straight answer was, no, never break the rules. Never break the rules. Bend the rules. And what was the outcome of that discussion? 50.5%. Please note it, 50.5% was the contribution of Indian government and 49.5% was the contribution of Russian government. And today we call it BrahMos Aerospace, which is neither a public sector undertaking, but yes, Indian government cannot even leave it apart by quoting that it is not a government setup. So it is semi-government in nature. That is called excellence of this man. That is an example which he set. So that is called vision. You have a dream, but if it has a purpose, you will find a vision. So all these terms, vision, leadership, they all go hand in hand, and which is what makes him as a leader, as a role model for almost any kind of, any person who's born with a certain scientific temperament, or even in your regular life. Because his own life has been so simple at a personal scale that when you look onto his personal professional accomplishments, you will find that he is nothing short of being known as a legendary figure of this country. So I'm going back to one of his contributions in leadership. And so let me begin by quoting that when you talk about leadership, it has to first start with lead. So what is lead? Are we talking about leading? Are we talking about leading a herd, or are we talking about leading a group of people? No. What happens sometimes is when you are sitting in your family and your family is talking about something, they're discussing something on the dining table. I'm sure many of you must have that kind of a culture. You have to break your own hesitation. And that is the first level of something called as lead, which even your director has actually correctly pointed out, that leadership has nothing to do just with your skills in, on the societal level. It is also at your personal level. So the first is breaking of this hesitation and to be self-aware in order to lead. From this word lead, you move to the next level, which is called leader. Now, when you break this hesitation level, I'm self-aware of things. I know what I'm doing. From there, I tend to become a leader. And through this leader, when I develop my skill set, I call it to be leadership. And from leadership, when I add the skills plus soft skill sets, I actually take it to leadership and excellence both. If I have a leadership, but I do not have the capability of convincing the masses or convincing anybody, or I am not able to contribute to the betterment of the society, or betterment, or let's go to the micro level, I'm not able to contribute towards the betterment of people in and around me, even then that leadership is not going to take me anywhere. So I have to go ahead with leadership and excellence hand in hand. And so Professor Warren Bennis, who's a professor at MIT Sloan School of Management, the leading school of management, he quotes, leadership is a function of knowing yourself. So we break the first jinx here, that when you talk about a leadership, it's not about that you have to go in the center of the street and then you have to shout that I'm a leader, I'm a leader. No. Leadership is a function of first knowing your own self. Who am I? What am I? What is my capability? What is my set? What is my skill set? What is my soft skill set? And how do I progress? Then comes having a vision that is well communicated. Am I having a dream, a goal wherein I can contribute something towards the betterment of people around me? Then, yes, I'm stepping to the next level, which is leadership with a vision. Then third comes is building trust among colleagues. Do I have the capability of holding the trust of my peers? Am I that trustworthy? That if somebody entrusts upon me that this is a certain decision that I need to take, will they trust me that even if it is good, bad, hard, or soft, whatever kind of a decision, will people rely on me? So the third set is building trust amongst your colleagues and your peers. And then finally is taking effective action to realize your own leadership potential. So when you talk about effective action, it has not to be just enclosed as a decision which is going to favor everybody. Now, let me again tell you a small example. In an academic environment, effective action does not mean that everybody in a certain course is going to be awarded 100 on 100 or an A plus. I'm sure that is not setting a correct leadership value and a standard. But that does not mean that you do not have trust and faith on your professor. Your professor is going to deliver you a content which is the best which is possible for that subject. Now, from there, your job is, your responsibility is to acquire the knowledge and then deliver it in your examination. But the decision that somebody is scoring 100 on 100, somebody is scoring 60 on 100 is an effective action or a decision which is based on a certain mutual trust relationship. But that does not mean that just because somebody is scoring 60, somebody is scoring 100, does not make or does not give a certificate to a professor that this person is good lead, this person is a good leader, this person is a bad leader. No. A teacher's responsibility, the first and the foremost responsibility, is to ensure that the students learn, whether it has to be through a certain, sometimes with not so good grades, sometimes with very good grades. So there are different ways and mechanisms in which people try to bring forward the leadership quality amongst everybody. And I'll again take a small example over here about leadership. My core areas in strength comes out to be electromagnetics, microwave and antenna engineering, which is a subset of electronics and communication. But I'll be very honest in quoting something over here. My dear students, I never scored more than 75 marks in any of these three subjects. And this is something so ridiculous. Why? Because 2 PhDs have already graduated under me and 4 PhDs are already completing their dissertation under me in the same subject. And quite shocking, they have completed 6 projects for Government of India under the same work. Now, why do I call it leadership for my own self? Just because I did not score a benchmark of 75 did not make me reluctant enough to pick up this as a subject. Rather, it motivated me on why I was not able to perform in my undergraduate course. So I had to again go back to the subject. I had to again check the foundations, the fundamentals and basics. And then I found that no, when I was in the learning pedagogy, there were certain mistakes which I made in understanding the fundamental concepts. Once those fundamental concepts were known to me, I started enjoying that particular work, that particular stream. And so when I completed my bachelor's, I decided that come whatsoever, I have to complete my master's with a specialization in microwave and antenna engineering, which I did successfully. So leadership has nothing to do, again, that you have to get onto the roads. It has to start at your home. Charity always begins at home. Please always remember that. And it has to be a certain faith. It has to be a push that you get from your own inner conscious. That's very important. So when you talk about leadership and vision, what is a vision? An unusual discernment or foresight, which comes from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. A leadership vision is a vivid, aspirational picture of the future. So I may have a certain dream. The next topic that we'll actually take up is something called as dream and vision. Now, dreams are fancy, but how many of those dreams are accomplished? And how many of those accomplished dreams lead you towards a betterment, towards an emancipation, towards an improvement of quality of life in and around people, around you? That's a question that we ask. If it leads you to that particular direction, then yes, that's a vision. You definitely have a vision, a certain dream which is accomplished, leading to something good. That is something which is called as vision. So when you talk about leadership, you always need to have a certain vision. I need to have a goal. I need to have an aim. I need to have an agenda. I need to have this vision in order to prosper and then go ahead. So vision is a portrait and depiction of what a leader aspires his organization to be in long term. When it comes to management, hardcore definitions, this is possibly I'll actually take up. But when you go for job interviews, and if you go for any specific good organization, the HR people will definitely ask you, what is the vision that you have? Does earning money give you, is that called a vision? No. Is it only that you want to become a general manager of a company or a CEO of a company? Is that a vision? No. We have got hundreds of people who are CEOs. There are hundreds and thousands of people who are general managers or maybe at senior managerial position in different companies. Is that a vision? No. A vision is a certain self-satisfaction in your job wherein you contribute towards the company and ensure that it leads to a holistic development of not only your own self, but also the organization you are associated with. Then you are definitely leading to, you're actually going ahead with a certain vision. So always be very clear that when you talk about vision, it's not just single-handed about a certain managerial level. No, it has to be a self-vision also. What kind of a vision do you set up for your own self? It's extremely important that you have a certain aim and objective in order to prosper and forge ahead in life. So when you talk about dreams and visions, dreams are considered to be flights of fancy. But it's not always that, you should not dream, because if you do not have a dream, what will you go ahead with? So Professor Kalam again quotes, I'll take back to his words. Dream is not something what you see when you're asleep. Dream is something which does not let you sleep. And if it does not let you sleep, then you will foster in order to ensure that you realize that dream. And if you realize that dream leading to something good, only then it becomes a vision. So dream plus a purpose becomes a vision. So what is vision? It's a dream of your possibility and how you seek to put it into a certain action. Then it becomes a vision. So vision doesn't go just with a certain organization. It does not go with just a certain institution. It does not go just with a certain country. It does not go with a certain project. It goes right at the minuscule, which is the individual level. So how many of you have actually, there's a question which I've posed, how many of you have actually read India 2020, A Vision of the New Millennium, which was written by Professor APJ Abdul Kalam and Y.S. Rajan. And the question still remains that, what was the vision that, he had about India 2020 in the book? So I'll just go back and I'll bring out the vision which Professor Kalam had in India 2020 was, we have to move from an independent India to a developed India. See, we have got independence in 1947. The restructuring of the complete country is already done thanks to our Home Minister, former Home Minister, late Shri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel ji. So the consolidation has already been done. People are well aware of that, the three territories which were actually a problem, which were not ready to be annexed to the mainstream land, they are also done. So Shri Vallabhbhai Patel's contribution is well acclaimed in unifying the country. What next? Does it put a full stop? That we are all free and everything is done? No. We have to look up from independent. We have to now move ahead from independent India to a developed India. How long are we going to carry this particular tag that we are still an underdeveloped country or we are a developing nation? We are going to hit 75 years of our independence. 75 years is something which is called a usual lifespan of an average Indian person. 75 years of contribution has already come up. Where are we heading towards? Is that a vision? No, we have to look up for the vision and we have to make it possible. So we have to move from independent India to a developed India, which is what he quoted in India 2020. And what he says in that, nations are built by imagination. So you should actually read between the lines. It's very important, about every word that he has mentioned. Nations are built by the imagination and untiring enthusiastic efforts of generations. One generation transfers the fruit of its toil, to which then takes forward the mission. Our forefathers and ancestors have done their jobs and duties. They have set this country free. What next? From there, we have to carry on. We have to carry on with this legacy. And we have to create an India which is developed, which is self-sufficient, which is not dependent on any foreign agency. As the coming generation also has its dreams and aspirations for the nation's future, it therefore adds something from its side to the national vision, which the next generation strives hard to achieve. Again, I'll take a small example here. You have all been listening to something which is called as Digital India in 2014 and 2019, based on what the current government has actually talked of. But how many of you are actually aware of that the first set of digital computers were brought in by the honorable former Prime Minister of this country, Shri Rajiv Gandhi, way back in 1989, with the aid of, again, a very legendary scientist, Shri Sam Pitroda, who helped in digitizing the complete country. Now, that is where the dream changed. When we were independent in 1947, the aim and vision was to create India and set it absolutely free from foreign invaders. And so we should be independent of sorts. We have to be independent from everybody. So that was independence was our goal and objective. Once that was done, the next was to stand in shoulder to shoulder with all the developed nations of the different parts of the world. And specifically, the targets have always been either the erstwhile USSR, which is now better known as Russia, or your US counterparts, which is United States of America. The two developed nations whose technologies, most of the world has been purchasing. So people have been looking up to. So the point was, how do you go ahead with this vision of developing your own self? So the vision changed. When we were in 1947, a young nation, just free, our aims and aspiration was that we want to breathe in our own land. But now it is, we have to develop in our own land. We have to go ahead with technology in our own land. Many of our, friends do question that what was the outcome of the Mars orbiter mission, which was set up in 2014. Had you not done it, people would have never even come to know that the contribution of Indian Space Research Organization is not just limited to Aryabhat. We have got minds, we have got people who can think beyond their capabilities, beyond the vision of this country also, and can take you to deep space network, which only US Russia and the European space agencies have done. So it was necessary to set an example to the world that India has a capability to forge ahead in the next set of technologies, which people are going to look forward for the future, which is why Mars orbiter mission was very, very important and crucial for India. And at the same time, an example which, you know, which it actually set forward, it was the cheapest mission, a deep space mission ever launched in the world. You know, the key quote during that whole time was, there was a movie, an Oscar-winning movie, which was called Gravity. So it was even cheaper. The Mars orbiter mission was even cheaper than the total cost of the movie Gravity. I'm sure many of you might have seen the movie Gravity because it was really popular during those days, and you know, people were actually trying to show how the complete space network eventually works. So we did a Mars orbiter mission, a deep space network, cheaper than a movie of Hollywood. That was an example. And that is where we set example as a vision for people, not only who have already graduated from ISRO, but also for the people and the next generation of scientists that we are going to build up. So we stick on to this particular statement, as the coming generation also has its dreams and aspirations for the nation's future, because the contributors in Mars orbiter mission were all middle-aged people who were very keen in really contributing something to the space network, to the space science, to avionics, to aerospace. So the dreams and aspirations of those set of people add something from its side to the national vision. And this goes ahead to the next generation as a responsibility. Again, take another, this process goes on and the nation climbs steps of glory and gains higher standards, higher strengths and higher standards. Now, again, I'll give you a very small example of leadership in my own family. Many of you might be pretty astonished to hear this, but I got my first set of smartphone, a Samsung smartphone, only in 2016. And you know, my dear students, who was the first person in my family to get a smartphone? You'll be very surprised and shocked. My mother, at the age of 57, she picked up a smartphone and she started using WhatsApp. Only by, when she started using a WhatsApp, did I actually realize that being an electronics and communication engineering, it's actually important on my part also to use at least a smartphone so that I can connect to maximum set of people. Now that's called leadership. My mother was not born in the age of internet. She was born in 1956 when people had actually small set of dreams. Their vision was not so broad. She came forward only in she has seen this complete technology developing, contrary to me, born in 1985, who has seen, who's born in this age of technology. And thankfully to you people who are already born in the age of technology, wherein people are smarter than even us, who can pick up the phone and download any sort of a game and then start playing around with it so flamboyantly. But it was not so true with me, and even worse for my mother, but she did it. Why did she do? Because of my nephew, her grandson. Her grandson actually once insisted that, my dear grandmother, I'm using, my friends have got a wonderful smartphone, and they, flash it on my face that, this is such a wonderful thing to do. We can play around. We can do so many good things out of it. This, that, extravaganza and everything. So to teach him a lesson, a very important lesson, that technology does not make humans a slave. Rather, technology should be a slave to humans. In order to teach him this important lesson, she picked up a smartphone, learned it, and then showed it to him that it's just a fancy device. Don't devote your complete time only on WhatsApp. Devote your time in gaining knowledge, in gaining excellence. Once you do that, you will actually come to know that it is just a mere technology. Excellence, leadership, vision has nothing to do with technology. They have to be used judiciously in order to go ahead with technology. So that does not mean that you should not learn technology. You should definitely know a technology, but don't become a slave to a technology. So 24 hours, if you are sitting on a WhatsApp, 24 hours, you are sitting only on Facebook, Instagram, that means something is going wrong. That's not setting a correct vision for your own self. You have to break that particular ice, and you have to go ahead and devote more time in order to know, in order to gain knowledge. So with this, the three areas of India 2020 vision, which was set up by Professor Kalam, was economy, agriculture, and technology. We are an agriculture country, and we will remain an agriculture country because that is where the foundations of India lies. The economy is dependent more in terms of agriculture. That is why we always talk about an organized sector and unorganized sector. And thankfully, Dr. Manmohan Singh, as the Prime Minister of the country, has always emphasized that whenever we talk about financial budget of this country, we have to talk of unorganized sector. There are daily wages. There are so many farmers who depend and who completely rely only on earning on a day-to-day basis. So that constitutes the MSMEs, the cottage industries. They constitute the unorganized sector of this country, and we have to take care of them. So economy is dependent on agriculture, both on organized and unorganized sector, and it has to be driven by technology so as to improve agriculture, so as to improve economy, both. Right? So all three of them have to go hand in hand. This has been the vision of India 2020, which is already gone by. We are now in 2021. So we have to now set up the next set of vision for India 2030. Where do we see India in 2030 as a vision? We have already rolled out 4G, but what next? What are you doing with 4G? The question remains, what have you achieved out of 4G? Is YouTube a very big craze, out of 4G? Is that a contribution? No. Is WhatsApp a very big contribution? No. But yes, there's one contribution: video calling. So now in the erstwhile era where people were only dependent on, giving a call on the phone, on the telephone, and they were, happy listening to the voice on the other side, thankfully now I can see somebody very much on the video conferencing. And how has it turned to be a boon in the current time? I'm sure many of you must have seen COVID patients in and around your own place who were completely isolated in the hospitals. But thankfully, because you have this technology, which was a vision for this particular country to be rolled out as a 4G technology, we were able to speak to our near and dear ones who were also admitted in the ICU during the complete COVID recovery process. Thanks to technology there. So don't become a slave to technology. Technology should always be a slave, and add how does it improve the quality of life? How does it improve people in and around you? That's called a vision. So when you talk about leadership and transformational leadership, there are four important pillars. The first is inspirational and motivational. What is the inspiration set? What is the motivation set? How do you get motivated in order to go ahead? The second is intellectual and stimulational. So somebody has to give you actually a kick. And many of my students have always been asking, because we people are a national institute, so all the students are supposed to stay inside the campus only, and we actually give them a lot of projects and sessional examinations in between. So our students actually keep asking us, when we have to appear for a mid-semester examination and an end-semester examination, why do you need to hold sessional examinations in between, or quizzes in between, or projects in between? The word which I always give them is stimulation. It stimulates you to improve. In case you have not, it helps you improve, so that when you appear for your midsems and your end semester examination, you should do well. So intellectual and stimulation, something which is going to kick you, is extremely important for your transformational leadership. Then you have got an idealized and an influence, wherein your peers, your friends, your colleagues, your parents, and your teachers, people around you with whom you are interacting the most, they actually contribute maximum towards influence. So influence is very, very important when you set up the right set of leadership, the right set of goals, the right set of objectives, the right set of vision for you. And who are the ideals amongst them? Extremely important. See, most of the people, when we talk about idols, would actually come down to either your parents. But when you treat them as idols, please always remember that their hardships are the examples. And again, you have to go back to the same. You have to ensure that the hardships they have undergone should not be the same which your next generation goes through. That is called a vision. And that is why every time when you are moving from generation to the next generation, you ensure that the idols, their life, their hardships are eased along the complete process. That's why it's called idealize and influence. And finally, when you look onto all three of these, you come down to your own personal self, which is called as individual and consideration. What is my role as an individual and how am I contributing to it? What have I done in order to excel? What have I achieved out of this individual, capability to think? Because I have, there are opportunities which I am getting, which possibly my parents did not have. How am I ensuring that those opportunities are well construed over the years, over the time frame, and I'm contributing significantly towards it? So this individual consideration comes down to me as an individual, irrespective of my gender, irrespective of the fact that I am 18 or 35, irrespective of the fact of what caste I belong to, everything put, at one side. What is my contribution as an individual to my own self, to my family, to the society, and to the nation building at large? So you have to go through all four of them in order to achieve this transformational leadership at every level. So when you look onto the theory part, there have been a couple of theories which has come from Bass and Evolio in 1994. I think the same time when, ma'am, your department was set up, 97 or 94? I think it was 97 if I heard it correct.
Correct. 94 is correct.
94 was correct. Okay. So, there's this theory of Bass and Evolio, which actually comes up. Leaders inspire individuals, develop trust, and encourage creativity and personal growth. This is what was set up as the transformational theory in 1994. So when you look back to leadership theories and leadership capabilities way back in 18th century, it was mostly monarchy and aristocracy, and it was a single person who was actually leading it forward. But when it came down to the 19th century with French Revolution, with the First International, Second International, Karl Marx, socialism, communism, everything coming in, one by one, capitalism was also born almost at the same time. It was then that the vision of people started changing. That in fact led to the political conflict of thoughts, which was, which actually led to the 1914 First World War and the 1939 Second World War, wherein we had socialism versus capitalism almost, staying avid over the years. And then post 1945 to 1990, we carried on with the Cold War, which was between the US and its allies and USSR. Since 94, when USSR collapsed, people said that no, it is not a single person or an organization who's going to actually take up leadership. No, it's not just a single person, but it has to be the leader inspiring the individuals, because leadership, people realized, is going to change continually. It's not going to remain only with one person, but it is going to change. And when that change comes, the next person who takes up the leadership should actually consider the ethos as well as the ethics of that particular organization, institution, the country, or a broader set of organization which people are working with or associated with. So leaders will inspire individuals, develop trust, and encourage creativity and personal growth, which is very, very important. These individuals are then going to develop a sense of purpose to benefit the group, organization, or society. Now, thanks to again, this COVID, there is very important message which most of the employees have developed towards their employers or towards their institution. And that is called a sense of belongingness. We have actually become more attached, although we are holding webinars, we are staying, possibly in our rooms, we are possibly taking online classes, but there is a sense of belongingness which has come. Why? Because we understand that in a certain age, again, during this COVID time, when the complete economic condition of this country is actually at a questionable position, the organization and institutions have been able to hold their employees. The employers have actually done that. So there is a certain sense of belongingness which people have developed towards their own organization. A very beautiful statement, which came up almost 2 or 3 days back only, again from a very legendary industrialist, Sri Ratan Tata. He said that in Tata Steel, we are going to give pension to every individual till the age of 60. They are going to get their salary till the age of 60, those who have lost their lives because of COVID. Now, that is called leadership and a vision. So what has he actually done? He has ensured that not only that person who lost his life in COVID, but also his successive generations, they remain associated with Tata Group in some or the other way. They should contribute towards, Tata Group, because there is a kind of a feeling that I have that in my worst time, Tata Group took care of me. So if I get an opportunity, I should, go back and contribute to Tata Steel or TCS or in some way, or Infosys, whatever organization I'm associated with. That is called sense of belongingness, and that's a leadership with a vision. So when again you look back, this goes beyond their own self-interest and an exchange of rewards or recognition for effort or loyalty. This is exactly what Sri Ratan Tata has set as an example for people. So when you look onto transformational theory, what was there pre-1990 has now completely changed post-1990. And this has to be now, this actually has to become a part of your own curriculum and your own self. So you have to look beyond the self-interest. You have to now look at a very holistic and a broad scale level. Now, building trust is something, again, which is very important and interesting. So how do you build trust? In order to build trust, you can take some examples from your own environment and experience. Like I said, I love to give examples to my students from my own life. Why? Because your own life is possibly the best teacher that you have ever had. Your own experiences have taught you the best lessons of your life. Possibly you might have missed the school bus because you were not well, so that taught you something. That small lesson might have taught you something very important on how to ensure that people around you are safe. Very small set of examples, even in your day-to-day life, are the best experiences that you gain. So in order to build trust, always use examples to which people can correlate to. Work or club in society, club or society or any organization where you are a member or you are associated with. So it's extremely important. Think of a person or anyone whom you have watched closely as a leader. And I think this is something which all of us, in fact, can do. Whether that is, in our personal lives or professional lives, we can always associate at least one particular leader, in our family, or maybe even in our organization. And by looking onto that particular leader, you have to also ensure that you identify what makes that person a leader. So there is a concept, even in India, thankfully in the Indian family, we have this concept which is called as head of the family. This is a beautiful concept which our forefathers have taught. I would not actually call it forefathers, because at one point of time, I'll talk about gender neutral terms for soft skills. So I'll not talk about forefathers. I'll actually call it ancestors. Our ancestors have taught us something wonderful, the head of the family. And let me tell you, head of my family is my mother. I've lost my father in 2012. So ever since then, my mother has taken over the full control, and she ensures that both of us brothers, even at the age of 36 and 42, cannot say no to her when she takes up a certain decision. And that makes her a leader And that's why, the next generation of our children, they look up towards their grandmother as an example. Now, this does not mean, a leader does not mean, or a head of the family just does not mean that it has to be a male member only. It can also be a female. It depends on the kind of a, upbringing, or kind of a, setup we people are associated with. But when you look onto this particular head of the family, who is the first set of a leader we come across, identify what makes that person truly a leader, the values, the virtues, what are the different ways, which catalyzes to achieve those goals, aims, and objectives. Some very small example that I'll actually take up. Again, triple IT Jabalpur, if you people check out on the Google map, it is at one of the remote locations of Jabalpur, very cut off from the city. And there are a few villages which are in and around triple IT. And there are a lot of these villages, they get a lot of daily wage kind of jobs in triple IT, whether that's kind of a sweeper's job, or maybe in the form of a gardener, or in the form of some security assistant, domestic help, lot of different ways. Now, during this complete pandemic situation, what I did, because we people had to come to our office for our online classes, or for any ministry related activities which were given to us almost at no time, and we had to complete and accomplish them. So most of the time, it became difficult for us, because taking online classes and online lectures was even more difficult, because you have to create the complete course on the online platform, and then deliver it to the students, because they are not accessible to the physical books. So it became even more difficult. But yes, when I was here, there's something very interesting which my mother did. She ensured that she contacted all the non-government organization, NGOs, to ensure that the villages in and around triple IT should be able to get at least the basic ration, so that their family and their household activities they run. They also have kids, because there was a time when domestic help and any kind of intruders were not allowed inside the institution. If they are all daily wages, from where are they going to get their basic necessities? So that is where possibly that's the first thing which I always checked out, that she has a leadership capability even today. And for that, she did not have to actually consult me. Let me be again honest. She never had to actually consult me. What she did was contact, she had this nice, she still has this beautiful mobile phone, which is again smart, a smartphone, pick up google.com, find out the NGOs, contact them, give them the addresses, and just take a feedback that yes, the job is accomplished. So now I'm adding another term to build up leadership, and that is called as feedback. Are we taking the necessary feedback at every given point of time for the decisions that we are rolling out? We may take 10 different decisions, but what is the repercussion of the decision? How is it actually going to create a beneficiary? That comes from the feedback. So when you talk about building trust, if the feedback is positive, then you are able to build a trust. If the feedback turns out to be negative, that means the decision which was taken was wrong. Somewhere it has to be again corrected. So when you talk about building trust, you have to go through all these small values and virtues. Again, respect your team, listen effectively. It's very, very important. Most of the time I keep telling my students that there is a certain decline of patience level which has actually come in the current generation. People jump onto conclusions very fast before even the completion of the statement. No, allow somebody to complete, listen very carefully. And when you listen, when we talk about listening skills, it's very important. Don't misinterpret, understand the context of the speech. It's very important. Sometimes it may so happens that people might be very harsh, uh, very harsh in delivering something, but they teach you the best lessons of your life. So listen effectively based on the context of the delivery. Seek their inputs on important matters. It's very, very important. Again, I'll again give you a very small example. You have your director in front of you. uh, the education process which she has undergone during her time, and what is delivered today, there is a vast difference between both of them. But the experience that she has gained over the years is something which is unmatched. And so as students, if you really want to learn something, take from her experience. So always take inputs from those who have an experience of something you really want to achieve. It's very, very important. Involve them in your decision making and encourage them to work in teams. Gone are the days when people used to actually just deliver something that this job has to be accomplished. No, now it is a teamwork. Rather than just an individual work, it now becomes a teamwork. Everybody has to work together, right from the top of the organization, which is at the top level of the pyramid, to the bottom of the pyramid. Everybody has to contribute. Treat them fairly, equally, with a personal touch. That has again become, a kind of a context which everybody needs to take care of. It's not that, just because you have somebody who's not being paid high for the kind of a job they are doing, do not deserve a certain respect. Let me again tell you, Corona taught us, COVID-19 has given us the beautiful lesson. Do you know who are the most respected set of people in our society today? They are called the so-called Corona warriors. And who are they? The cleaning staff and the sweepers.
Doctors.
The
Yeah.
doctors, doctors have always been contributing, but nurses, the cleaning staff, they are the first line warriors, whom we have not extended any respect before COVID-19. What an irony that, we've never respected their kind of a job which they did, the cleaning job that they did before COVID-19. And suddenly in COVID-19, people went with garlands, all the Nagar Nigam people who have come to collect all the different disposables and, all the stuff, people used to garland them. Why? Because if they don't clean, if they don't come out and clean their the complete roads, who is going to maintain that hygiene? So their contribution remains immense. And so you have to always work with people right from the bottom level of the pyramid to the top level of the pyramid with a certain personal touch. That will actually take you to leadership. Again, this is an example, from the ongoing pandemic. Give opportunities for them to innovate, create, grow, and prosper and protect them. It's very important. Your creativity is
Sorry,
your
sir.
strength.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, please, your voice is low, sir. Can you adjust your mic?
Is it okay now?
Okay. Yeah, now it's okay.
So when you look on to, again, the opportunities, when you look on to creativity, that turns out to be your biggest strength. So the creativity has to be always fostered with innovation. That's something very, very important. If you check out again with the Department of Science and Technology, there are a lot of innovative things, innovative products which have actually come up based on sensors, on sanitizing hands, footrest with sanitizers. There's so many innovative things which have eventually come up, all because the pandemic has taught us one of the biggest lessons. Remain in constant touch, communicate effectively, and for that, trust me, you do not need to always have a physical communication. For that purpose, technology is sufficient. Just pick up your phone, drop a WhatsApp message of hi, hello, how you are doing, what are you doing. That itself is sufficient, but at least it ensures that we are all connected and we are all treating ourselves fairly well, and have the courage and commitment. That's very important towards the kind of organization, institution at a personal or professional level you are associated with. So what are the different effective actions which actually takes you to the leadership level? Goal-oriented actions should be there to realize all your dreams. There are certain things which are, which are actually given, which I think one should actually look up. There's something called a SWOT analysis, which is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, which we should always look up to. If you again look back to the former governments that we have had, again, Dr. Manmohan Singh's one of the strategy, he used to always talk about SWOT analysis. In all his, whenever he was finance minister again in 1990s, 1993, when he came up with the liberalization of the Indian economy, he talked about the SWOT analysis, and he said that even if I liberalize the economy and we talk about the disinvestment, I know that I am still ensuring that the fraternity of this country is safe at both economic, personal, and professional level, at all levels. So it's very important that we do our SWOT analysis and ensure that we people have taken care of our strengths, we know our weakness, what kind of opportunities we have, and what are the threats to those opportunities or to the strengths that we have. So you have to look up to all four paradigms very carefully. You have to take the risks, handle them. If you don't take the risk, then you cannot forge ahead also. Again, all of your management students, most of you must be going through mutual funds and their advertisements, which always talks about taking risks. So Sachin Tendulkar has always been talking about take a risk, at least take up one mutual fund. It's important. So until and unless you don't take a risk, you don't know that how it is going to be how it has to be handled. So you have to take a risk, handle them very, very carefully. Pandemic has been one of the best examples. Building strength to predict and handle failures. Again, failure is a very important part. Uh, there is something which my students have actually taught, that, sir, learning is one thing, but when you are forcing somebody to stay only in your houses, it's leading to one very important trouble, and that is called mental trouble. We are inviting mental psychiatric problems amongst people. And that is because suddenly people have realized that, there are a lot of failures in our life. The introspection is wherein people are realizing that, no, we have possibly have had a lot of failures. No, that is a point when you have to actually build your strength in order to counter your failures and then go ahead. This is the best time for introspection. This whole lockdown has given us two important directions. One, research. Please have a look onto your own self, that what is my biggest strength wherein I can forge ahead, I can move ahead, and I can contribute. So research is very, very important. And second is, your failures have to be turned into your biggest strength. How do you turn your failures into biggest strength so that you do not go to a mental low level? That's very important. Conflicts, change of management, that's very important. Conflict management is typically important when you work in an organization or when you work with people. So again, thanks to the honorable parliament of this country, we have a majority government. We also have a beautiful opposition which always opposes something. So that's the beauty of Indian government, democracy. That teaches us the lessons, that if there is even one good decision, at least there is somebody to question that yes, there is something wrong with that good decision also. And have you looked on to that? So you have to always handle this conflict very carefully. Decisions have to be very taken, the timely decisions, the timeliness is very, very important. Please honor time in your life. If you do not honor time, time is just going to, go ahead and it's going to leave everybody behind. So there was this one question which Mr. B.R. Chopra was asked when he came out with his legendary serial called Mahabharat. And if you people just have if you look onto the episodes of Mahabharat, it never started with Krishna. It always started with a rolling wheel, which was Samay. Time is very, very important to take decisions in the correct time frame and to honor time. Very, very important. Please honor your time. If you have 5 minutes with you today, please introspect. What did you do the whole day which was really worth it? Did I do something creative? Or did I do something which really, creativity does not mean that I'm only adding something good in my intellect capability. Did I bring one small smile onto my parents' face? Even that is called, using your time to the best. So always, look on that what is time and how it can be handled. Your time management is very important. And finally is your performance evaluation and effective control on parameters leading to any sort of a delay or normalization of goals that can be taken into, action. So when you look on to leadership and management roles, what is the key essence or difference between a leader and a manager? Don't be managers. You're all doing management courses, but my personal suggestion is just don't be managers, become leaders. It's very important, because leadership will give you the ability to develop a vision that motivates others and makes them passionate to achieve their goals. Whereas management would give you the ability to organize resources, coordinate them, make strategic planning, and execute tasks. Become a leader so that people deliver to their not 100 but 200%. But if you're a manager, people are only going to do that much which is capable, for people to save their jobs. No, that should not be the aim. The aim should be that, I should motivate my people so that they deliver by 200%. They should keep on doing something which, leads us to something which actually takes us forward to the next, generation, to the next set of things. An example is, Even during this pandemic time, I don't know how many of you have actually undergone. DRDO came up with a medicine,
Yes.
and that medicine is called Cheat the Cheater. What a beautiful name, a pseudo glucose name which they have come across. And in order to explain it to the common masses and people, they have come up with the term which is called Cheat the Cheater. So how do I cheat COVID-19? By creating a pseudo glucose in order to ensure that COVID-19 does not get glucose, it does not get energy, and it dies its own death. Now, that is called revolutionary thinking, which has come by the virtue of the leadership of the scientists, the thinkers of this country, at a time when nobody was allowed to access the labs also. Now, that is where comes leadership. So, be a leader, don't be just a manager. So, leaders will do the right things, managers do things right. That's the difference between the two. Management would seek stability and predictability, whereas leadership would actually seek improvement through a certain change, which is extremely important. When you look on to leaders and managers, again, I've given a long list. Managers accomplish goals, leaders are going to set the goals for people. So we have now a certain goal, even as academicians in the national institutes, all of us have actually set some goals. How can we use this particular threat as an opportunity in order to develop courses and extend it to the maximum set of people? How can we do that? So people started taking more and more webinars in order to ensure that we get connected to the maximum people in and around this complete country. So one of the best lessons that we have learned is, we have been listening that India talks about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, wherein we talk about the world as a whole family. But thankfully, to the pandemic and the lockdown, people through webinars, through the internet mode, have really gone as friends to the farthest part of the country. Today, an IIT Delhi professor can deliver a lecture, who is a listener might be possibly at Port Blair or Havelock Islands, which is one of the corners of Andaman and Nicobar Island group. Now we can talk to people who are in the most remote locations of this country. We get information about everything. So thanks to this pandemic, that it taught us that particular lesson, and we really became a Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam during this whole time. Again, that is a thoughtful process of the leadership, which has been taken care of by all the leaders, the world leaders at a very global perspective. So managers are going to accomplish goals, leaderships set the goals. Managers are tactical, leaders are strategic. So again, I'll take a very small example. I'm not going to criticize anybody, but Ratan Tata, Sri Ratan Tata was once asked that, given the opportunities that you have had in your whole life, you could have become the world's richest person unarguably.
Yes.
Compared to when we look onto the
Mukesh
assets,
Ambani.
Mukesh Ambani, wonderful. I love to take that example every time. Compared to Mukesh Ambani, Ratan Tata came up with a wonderful example, and he gave a wonderful reply. He said, Mukesh Ambani is a businessman. I am an industrialist.
Industrialist.
Now there you have to hold the words, that it is his vision that sets him apart. Both of them are basically doing a business, but somebody is going and cutting into the minds of his employees, and that is why he calls it to be an industrialization, and he's talked himself of as an industrialist, not as a businessman. So managers are tactical, but leaders are strategic. That talks about the strategic capability of Sri Ratan Tata. Managers maintain the status quo. Leaders are going to change the status quo. Managers are going to focus here and now. Leaders always talk about future. They are not talking about the investments which are taking place right now, but they'll talk about future investments, which again, Ratan Tata's example, by ensuring that people till the age of 60, those who have lost lives in COVID, they are getting their salaries. He ensures that the whole family becomes a part of Tatas. They become a Tata family. So that is called vision. That is called leading towards the future. So managers emphasize efficiency, Leaders emphasize effectiveness. Again, there's a difference between the two words, the effectiveness, the efficacy, and the efficiency. Managers will execute the vision, whereas leaders are going to set the vision. So like I said, BrahMos aerospace of the brainchild of Shri APJ Abdul Kalam, that dates back to 1992, and today in 2021 BrahMos is the largest selling cruise missile of the world. We are selling cruise missiles to the whole world, not only just air to airborne, but land to land, land to air, sea to air. It has been now taken up in all the different levels. That is an Indo-Russian collaboration which honorable president, the former president Shri APJ Abdul Kalam, had envisaged way back in 92. Now that is called creating vision. Managers emphasize on facts. The leaders are also always going to emphasize on values. Another example which I'll actually take over here when it comes to value creation. Now, most of us have actually undergone through the case studies of the Taj Hotel terrorist attack that we had. And quite, interesting, the findings of the research was that the kind of loss of life, the numbers which were counted, that was not very severe. The numbers were not so significant. And so when people had actually undergone the complete process of what saved so many lives, it was found that most of the employees of Taj Hotel and this Taj group come from so-called B-town cities of this country, wherein values and ethics, they are taught at the household level. The sense of belongingness comes to people right at the ab initio of their career, of their age. So what happened when Taj Hotel was attacked? It was these set of employees who ensured that the guests of Taj Hotel should be saved first, even before their own life. And this was a research outcome of MIT School of Sloan, the design school. They said that because the recruitments were done from these B-town cities, that is why most of these lives were saved. So that is where we call value creation is extremely important. And that is because of the leadership which Taj Group has always taken up. So leaders are going to emphasize on values, whereas managers are actually going to talk about facts. So always be leaders. Always emphasize to be leaders. And for that, you don't have to do much. At a self level also, at an individual level also, your contribution can be significant. This, stands as one of my most beautiful examples that I have actually come across when it comes to leadership. This is again not my creation, but Kamala Amma's creation. This cartoon has been sent to me on WhatsApp. So everybody has donated significantly. You can see $255 million come from Bill Gates, Jack Dorsey's $1,000 million, Azim Premji's $132 million. But Kamala Amma has given only 500 rupees. She's getting a 600 rupees pension. Her pension is just 600 rupees, but she's donating 500 rupees out of it to the government for Corona. Now that is called leadership. And my dear students, this is what is an example of leadership. It's not just about creation of assets. It's about how you break your jinx, break the ice within your own self and set an example. That is why this cartoon actually becomes, an epitome as a kind of a pivot for all leadership examples, which, should be taken up into, account. Again, so if you talk about excellence, so we have talked about leadership. Now let's talk about excellence. How does excellence come? Again, you have to break it up into certain practice. Excel. I have to excel based on my strengths. I have to ensure what is my strength, and then I have to go ahead with it. How do I become excellent in that? How do I improve my capabilities, that strength of mine, to the highest extent that it becomes excellent? And that leads me to something which is called as excellence as a grooming, which adds to the vision with a certain purpose. So you have to achieve and you have to become excellence. You have to achieve this excellence within your own self. Again, I'll take a small example from my own career. So I had this MTech student. Her name is Poonam Sagar, and today she's doing wonderful. So I'll come to her set of a story. When she came to MTech in microwave electronics, again, she was not doing very well in the academic program. And so she was just a 6-pointer. So 6-pointer is just like, 50 or 60%. So she came for registration of her master's dissertation to me, and she was supposed to do 1 year of research. So when she came to me, she said, "Sir, I'm not good in any of the subjects of MTech, and I really do not know how long am I actually going to continue. I might leave." So one day I was just, walking past, and I just checked out that she just opened her, sketchbook. And what I saw was she made amazing sketches. The designs with which she actually came up, they were not regular set of sketches which she was making. There was some very innovative set of 3D designs which she was actually coming up. And that was her strength, which I picked up. I said, "Poonam, you really do not need to do much. Just implement these sketches onto your design tools of antenna engineering, and just do these basic set of things that I'm asking you to do, and then tell me what are your results." My dear children, this girl, Poonam Shir Sagar, she in her MTech of just 1 year graduated with two very reputed international journals. We actually quoted with Science Citation Index. She got the best paper award at a very prestigious national conference, which is called IEEE Indicon. And she graduated from here, and today she is working with, please listen to the word carefully, Robert Bosch, which is a very wonderful MNC, in this field of electromagnetic field theory. Now, a 6-pointer girl today, just by virtue of her creativity, has made it to Robert Bosch, and today her salary is more than mine. I'm so happy to quote it that, being a government employee, she is drawing a salary much higher than me. What an immense pride and honor for me as a teacher. But yes, if you look onto her scorecard, her score sheet, it was just a 6-pointer. But she delivered. So you have to find out where are you excelling and how it can be tuned in order to go ahead. Every person is born with a gift, every individual, and you have to hone that particular skill. And that is what you have to take care of. Another example I'm taking off is Nobel Prize. So many of us actually think that, Nobel Prize is awarded for something doing very, very innovative, in that particular year. No. Nobel Prize is awarded for a technology or for developing something which is new and novel. And one thing which we do not read is its assessment on improvement on the quality of life of society. So if you check out, the recent Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to blue LEDs. There were a group of 3 scientists, 2 from US and 1 from Japan, who were awarded blue LEDs, physics Nobel Prize. Blue LEDs were invented way back in 2000, but the award was given in 2016. 16 years it took only to judge that whether the contribution of blue LED is really significant or not. And yes, it was, because by the creation of blue LEDs, we have a term which is called as hue and a spectrum of colors. So that was created to a very wide range, and a much wider range was gifted because of the blue LEDs. That is why the Nobel Prize was given 16 years after its invention. So Nobel Prize talks about excellence. It's not a theory, it's not a technology, which is, and in that particular year itself, what is its impact over the course of the years? That decides Nobel Prize. And that is why it talks about excellence and not just an achievement. Achievement can be a research paper, but excellence is where you are recognized by the Nobel Prize by virtue of the impact of that particular achievement. That will lead you to excellence. So when you talk about communication, in order to achieve the capabilities of leadership and excellence, your communication becomes very important. So the styles of communication can be formal, informal, or casual, and the dimensions can be either in terms of understanding, agreement, or effectiveness and efficiency. And the communication barrier can go either in terms of the vertical hierarchy or in terms of horizontal hierarchy. So when you talk about vertical hierarchy, obviously when I'm going to my superiors and I'm speaking to them, that's the vertical hierarchy of communication. And when I'm talking to my own peer group, I'm in the horizontal frame of communication. So when you talk about, that's why I said at one point that I'll talk about what are the skill sets, because you talk about skill set and there is something called as soft skill set. If you listen to the great leaders, they have got both. There is a certain skill set and there is a certain soft skill set also that they have. It's very important to cut into the masses. And that's why I would always recommend, please listen to the lectures of, number one, Srimati Indira Gandhi, when she has spoken to people, her lectures have been authoritative and she has cut into the masses completely. Second, that you should always listen is, her counterpart from United Kingdom, known as the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. Please listen to Margaret Thatcher. And if you can go back again, at one point I'm going to quote the Kennedys. Please do listen to the Kennedys also, because Kennedy had a wonderful vision that he had actually set up for America, though he died very young. But he also had a wonderful vision set up for the complete country. In the recent eras, please listen to Bill Clinton. You'll come to know that how they have gone into the masses. And even if you don't want to talk about Bill Clinton, at least Barack Obama in USA. You should listen to all his lectures that he has delivered, at UN General Assembly. They're wonderful masterpiece. You should actually listen to them. Very careful. And when you listen to them, please listen. Please do have a careful note and observation on the language that the people use. So there are some examples on how do we bridge this particular gap of gender neutrality in order to ensure that our communication is such that it cuts into the masses. So one of them is gender insensitive. So one portion is, there's something which I've written: man does many things to stop soil from eroding and he tries to conserve or protect the soil. The question that I'm asking is it only the male fraternity or the male gender who have the responsibility of holding soil erosion or to protect soil and conserve soil? Females do not have that responsibility. Doesn't it come as a question over here? So we need to change it. We need to actually neutralize this term, which is called man. It has to be human. Human does many things to stop soil from eroding. It's not he, but it is they, so that you can take it in the third form. And then also you can actually, neutralize this particular term. So you have to talk about neutralization, which, one of the fundamental, one of our leaders, Azim Premji, has initiated in our recent domains. So I'm quoting his complete statement. If we do not enable the child to enjoy formal education in the school and constant informal education outside the school, including at home, we would be depriving the child her fundamental rights. In a correct language proposition, it should have been, we would be depriving the child his fundamental right. But Azim Premji broke the jinx. He said, no, we would be depriving the child her fundamental right. Why did he write down her? Because he knows one thing for sure, that we have to ensure our women and females have to be educated first. Well goes the saying, you educate a man, you educate an individual, but you educate a woman, you educate the whole family. Now that is something which is called a vision. Each citizen of this country must hold himself or herself responsible for primary education. It is not just himself, in correct language form, which we were taught in our school, possibly it would have been, each citizen of this country must hold himself responsible for primary education. But no, he said no. It is an equal responsibility for both himself and herself. That is what was where Azim Premji broke the jinx. And he said, you have to talk of gender insensitive communication. So written and spoken language should be always culturally sensitive. You have to ensure that you are not creating a taboo for somebody. That should not happen. It should not be a taboo for any certain religion. It should not be a taboo for some, it should not be a taboo for some sect, caste, creed, anything. It has to be culturally very sensitive. It has to be unbiased. Keep it very simple. That's the first fundamental learning. Language should be lucid. It should be simple. If language becomes complicated, you will not cut into the masses. So language should be kept very, very simple. An example for this, please listen to Sudha Murthy, Srimati Sudha Murthy. Now, when she takes, her lessons and lectures, and she goes to the students, to children, and when she speaks, she talks about day-to-day examples from her life, and she talks about students with the vision of a student, with the capability of a student, so that they can understand her better. Every time when she's speaking, very simple, lucid language, right? Does not mean, well, that does not mean that, you should not have a hold on good language. Well, because when Shashi Tharoor speaks,
Yeah, exactly. I was about to come to that.
when Shashi Tharoor speaks, he actually ensures that
Educates
it's
us.
for intellect. It's an educated masses. He gets into the to the highest level of standard. But Sudha Murthy gets connected more. So Shashi Tharoor needs to create an impact. So if you want to listen to impactful speech, please listen to his address in UN General Assembly, where he ensured that nobody could get up from their seat when Shashi Tharoor was addressing the UN General Assembly.
Even when he was his Oxford speech was
Yes,
also terrific.
yes. The same, ma'am, same. J.K. Rowling's speech at Harvard University when she was invited as the guest of honor for the convocation. Well, even that's something really to be to be
Yes,
connected to.
I know.
But Sudha Murthy is somebody who's very simple, straightforward, and cuts into the masses, right? So your language should be simple, concise, concrete, and vivid at the same time. So when you talk about social and cultural sensitivity, it has to be a certain conscious attempt to considerate or cultural beliefs, norms, traditions from, even if it differs from somebody's own. And you have to ensure that communication should never get offensive at any given point of time. It should always be respectful of whosoever is in front of you. It's very, very important when you use. So that is why, my language teacher, I honor her and I, pay my rich tributes, Mrs. Sujita in my school, Mrs. Sujita Kumar Chandran. She used to tell me only one thing: Vishwajit, words are the strongest tool which has been given to mankind, to humankind, human race. And why did she quote? She said that words can create war between two peace loving nations, and it can bring peace between two war going nations. So choice of your words are very, very important. And isn't it so true? If you read history, 1914 World War was because Austria's prince was captivated and there were some offensive remarks which came from Hungary, and that is why they entered into a war. That is how the First World War started. So choice of your words are very, very important. You have to pay attention to every word that you speak. So communication should always be inclusive, should not be exclusive, and social biases should not be reflected in any part of your communication. Again, the same thing has been, explained in a certain simple way. There are some small examples which I'm going to take so that the students can actually connect to. Avoid gender specific phrasing. So one example is, uh, instead of using each employee should read his packet or carefully, you can use employees should read their packets carefully. So this becomes neutral. I'm not deliberately using the term his. Use pronoun pairs. It can be each employee should read his or her packet carefully. That is also acceptable. Sometimes you can revert the order of he and she. Instead of creating he, she, you can create she, he or she or he, so on and so forth. You can avoid use of pronouns altogether, which is each employee should read the packet carefully. So that is, complete, you can avoid the use of the pronouns altogether. Some more examples can be, okay, so the problem is by using man as a generic noun to represent groups that also includes women, the writer misinterprets the species as male. Now that is somewhere, we actually question. So you can use the term which is called human. So there are some solutions which is given as human, person, mortal. There can be variations like humankind, humanity, human beings, human race, and people. There's again, you people should introspect. uh, you actually should read the Constitution of India, which is strictly gender insensitive. We, the people of India, it starts with we, the people of India. It never says I as a human, or, it never talks about his or her. It talks about we, the people of India, honor democracy. And then you have got the definition of democracy, which comes across. Please again go through that. We have a very gender insensitive language in our complete constitution, thanks to the political thinkers of those time, who could identify that it is not just limited to, why particularly that, because the complete constitution itself was led by Dr. Ambedkar, but it also had people like Sarojini Naidu, who was one of the legendary thinkers and speakers of that time, a language speaker. Listen to her, her address and note in US. wherein she says, I come from Far East, but with folded hands, I welcome all of you. So we had great thinkers like them who knew that the language should not be biased. If they in 47, 40s, pre-independence could think like that, I think this is a time when we should implement it in our regular day-to-day conversation. So example is the effect of PCBs has been studied extensively in rats and man. No, make it gender fair. The effect of PCBs has been studied extensively in rats and humans. You can use a more descriptive or inclusive compound words, which can be, instead of workmen, you can use workers. Instead of man size, you can use sizable, adult size. Chairman or chairwoman can be replaced by chairperson, presider, convener. There are a lot of different ways you can actually look onto. And why was this chairman and chairwoman was specifically pointed out? Again, I'll come to this example. So chairman example was actually, brought into limelight when Srimati Arundhati Bhattacharya picked up as the chairperson of the State Bank of India, the complete SBI group. So in couple of occasions, people, used to address her as chairman of SBI group. And she pointed out in one of the meetings, she said, chairman is supposed to be for a male. Please address it as chairperson. If you cannot, honor a woman, at least make it gender sensitive. And from there, the word chairman or chairwoman was completely substituted. And so now in most of the organizations, you'll actually come across people use the term chairperson. So she was one of those, one of those leaders who actually brought this change in the word chairperson. So the governor signed the workmen's compensation bill. You can make it gender fair by the governor signed the workers' compensation bill. So it becomes gender neutral again. There is a term again wherein US Constitution comes out to be one of the oldest constitutions, but they also have written all men are created equal, and they still have that in their constitution. Barkha Datta was once interviewed, and she was asked that in India there is so much of gender disbalance, women are suppressed, this, that, so many things. Her answer to her US counterpart was a blessing. She said, I know that you people have a preconceived notion about India where women are completely suppressed, but I have one question to ask you. In your 200 years, 250 years of your history, how many female presidents have led United States of America? Thankfully, in our short span of 75 years, we have at least had one female prime minister and one female president. I'm very sorry to use female prime minister, female president, but it was only to emphasize that women in India have been strong enough that even in a short span of history, we have been led by females also. That was her counter reply, and so very, thought provoking. So you should always ensure that, these terms which look that as if they are, going ahead in day-to-day life, but you should ensure that it comes to, your regular practice so that we can be the facilitators of gender neutrality in our regular life. Another example is like, by using he, his, or him as a generic pronoun, when the reference gender is unknown or irrelevant, the writer misinterprets the species as male. So we can actually use, some different set. So example can be, write the sentence without pronouns. I'm taking avoid conditional structures generally introduced by if or when, which often require the use of pronouns. So example is, an original example is, if the researcher is the principal investigator, he should place an asterisk after his name. Make it gender fair, place an asterisk after the name of principal investigator. Principal investigator can be a male, can be a female, right? For any particular project or anything. Why make it he? Make it gender fair. Again, another small example, use gender specific pronouns only to identify a specific gender or specific person. Repeat the question, for each subject so that he understands it. Improve it as, repeat the question for each male subject so that he hopefully understands it. Or you can also use plural nouns and pronouns if they do not change the meaning of the sentence. That is, repeat the question for each subject so that he understands it, can become repeat the questions for all subjects so that they understand it. What is wrong is the operator can correct this problem, but he must have the data. Rather, make it operators can correct this problem, but they must have the data. You can use a double pronoun like he or she or he, him, etc. Each supervisor will be at his workstation by 8 a.m. You can make it as each supervisor will be at his or her workstation by 8 a.m. Use an article instead of a possessive pronoun as a modifier. It can be after filling out his class schedule, the student should place it in the registrar's basket. You can write it down as after filling out a class schedule, the student should place it in the registrar's basket. So it becomes gender fair. Sparingly, you can use the sparingly you can use the passive voice also. If a student wishes to avoid sex bias in his writing, he should examine these alternatives. It can become these alternatives should be examined by any student who wishes to avoid sex bias in the writing. So it becomes more specific, right? It becomes more gender fair. You can replace, you can again think of, taking an example of replacing the pronoun he like man. The generic use of he can be excluded. So it can become, when a driver approaches a red light, he must prepare to stop. Instead of that, you can make it, when drivers approach a red light, they must prepare to stop. So it becomes gender fair. And isn't it so very true? Because there was a time when porters in any railway station used to be only males. But thankfully to the recent trends, there are a lot of females who have also took up porters as their livelihood. They are also, they've actually picked it up as a profession. Same truck driver. Truck driving was considered to be a male flamboyancy, but there are a lot of females who are now doing it. There are taxi drivers who were actually males, but now taxi driving is also taken up by females. And thankful to Hyderabad, you will find a lot of revolutionary change in those cities. Well, even in a small place like Jabalpur, we do have that. So metros are supposed to come up with even more examples. When driver approaches a red light, he or she must prepare to stop. So you can write down, when approaching a red light, a driver must prepare to stop. That's another set of an example which you can take. So I'm taking a communication bottleneck, a very beautiful example which comes from Akhil Chandra Sen to Sahibganj Divisional Railway Office in 1909, where he's complaining about how he missed the train. A wonderful example of miscommunication. I am arrived by passenger train Ahmadpur station, and my belly is much swelling with jackfruit. I am therefore went to privy. Just I doing the nuisance that the guard making whistle blow for train to go off, and I'm running with lota in one hand and dhoti in the next. When I am fall over and expose all my shocking to man and female women on the platform, I am got leaved at the Ahmadpur station. This too much bad. If passenger go to make dung, that damn guard would not wait train 5 minutes for him. I am therefore pray your honor to make big fine on that guard for public sake. Otherwise, I am making big report in papers. Now, this shows garrulity, a certain level of garrulity on the person. So garrulity is the art of not being effective communicator. So you have to break this jinx of effective communication, and it's not very difficult. You have to actually be an effective communicator. It's very important when you write down things. So there are certain examples of inefficient to efficient communication when it comes. You can actually take these examples. A considerable amount of can be converted into much. The given data can become simply data. In the event, that can become if. Deposited, precipitate, it can become simply precipitate. The nature of Hoyle's work is always of a provocative kind. So you can always write down always provocative. So you can improve your communication skills by the quality of learning as well as your interpersonal skills. That's very, very important. So these are certain very basic outlines which are very important in order to improve your communication skill set. Although you have got language teachers, I'm sure that they are always taking the same in your classes also. But when it comes to oral communication, always ensure that always keep it in the back of your mind that your words constitute 38%, your words constitute 7%, but it's your gesture and non-verbal communication which constitutes to 55%. So every time when you communicate, please ensure that your facial gesture should be a good reflection of your heart. A small wink or a small tiredness on your face can actually send a wrong message. No, that is why it is always said, parents always teach their children also that when, at least it was a habit in most of our families, when we were groomed as children, we were always ensured by our mothers that when father used to return from his job and his office in the evening very tired, mother used to always ensure that children of the family should greet him with a broad smile on their face. because that small smile, even if they're not well, or they may have some mood swings or something, that small smile brings about a lot of peace in the complete family. And that is something very classical example of oral communication. Your body language, gesture, facial expression, they're very important when you talk about, when you want to communicate to maximum set of people. So when you talk about attention span, it is generally 20 minutes of concentration, and after every 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes of a lapse is always considered, and then you can, again, there can be a slight recovery, and then you can always renew. So that is why I always love to take a lot of examples in between. If it's a 2 hour or 3 hour session, always ensure that you have got some small funny examples. If you have those funny examples, that breaks the jinx, and it helps you recuperate with your attention span. It's very important when it comes to leadership. Otherwise, it will only become monotonous, and it will just go on, and people will not be able to connect to you. So if you have to draw attention of people, please ensure that you add some small pun or humor, so that people are connected to you. Again, if you listen to when it comes to leadership and communication, uh, very recent trend wherein most of the political leaders have tried to connect to the masses is by virtue of jumlas. There are a lot of jumlas which people have actually added. There are people who are from the old school of thought. They feel that it is a wrong practice or a process. But if you observe, when a political leader, or they are using a jumla somewhere in between their language or their speech, they are able to grab attention of maximum set of people. So that is based on this attention span theory. If you go on only talking about one thing, that this is bad, if they continue in their political rally only by attacking the prevalent government, the incumbency or the anti-incumbency will not work. So that is why, to grab the attention, you have to divert slightly, and you have to place your words in a more humorous way. So that becomes attention span. Again, you can increase the attention span through interaction, diagrams, audio visual, pace of speech, pitch of voice, length of sentences, pauses. There are a lot of different ways you can actually think of. When you talk about vocal features, again, all three of them are very important. Pause between the words. At the right point, you have to make a pause. Stress on the word which is important, so that the information is delivered and it is understood. And intonation, wherein you keep on changing your pitch. All three of them are extremely important. So one of the example, or one of the advice which I would always like to give to my students, when you go for improvement of vocal features, something which my parents always taught me before going for speech competition or debate competition, please go for a mirror practice. And what is a mirror practice? When you have a certain piece, and you know that you have to learn that, you have to mug up that by heart, and you have to deliver it in front of your colleagues or peers or maybe friend circle the next day. Please stand in front of the mirror and speak. When you see your own mirror image of yourself speaking, you tend to learn the very fact of hesitation, how to break your hesitation when somebody is mocking at you, and that helps you improve your vocal features. So always do a mirror practice. When you go for any debate competition, when you go for group discussions, please do a mirror practice. Very, very important. That will also help you understand that how the intonation works, right? So those things have to be always taken into as an example. So when you talk about non-verbal actions, which I always emphasize on, because verbal part is something which will come by virtue of your practice. So there was a habit which our teachers had actually given us. Please bring your dictionary to the school, and always 5 words from your dictionary you should always read, and you should always learn. So that will help you improve your linguistic part. But non-verbal is something wherein you really need a lot of efforts. So when you talk about verbal and non-verbal part, you have to understand that people can be either in the proximity, wherein the proximity is divided as either a public zone, which is more than 4 meters, or a social zone, which is 1.4 to 1.5 to 4 meters. Again, this is something which has come up again during the recent times of social distancing. And personal zone, wherein that I'm standing next to my peer and I have a lot of confidence, so I can stand in the personal zone. Intimate zone is where that this person is my absolute pally, so you get intimate with your parents, you get intimate with the best of your friends. So that is in the intimate zone. So this is where the maximum non-verbal actions and your communications come into picture. Orientation can be in any of the three formats. So either you are sideways, which is horizontal, or vertical, or you are aligned. So that is relative position between your speaker and the body alignment, wherein you have to actually, cover up the maximum people. So if you observe during the whole course of my conversation and communication of this lecture delivery, during my complete, if you observe the video, I am not looking straight. Can anybody help me identify what is the reason? So let me just tell you. The problem is my video cam is placed onto the left top, and I am looking straight onto my complete desktop. So that is why when you look onto the visual angle, it is aligned. It is actually misaligned, right? So that is why most of you might be thinking that why is he not looking onto the camera and then delivering a lecture? Is because my communication is in this second category right now. The video cam is onto the left part top, and I am looking straight onto the screen. So again, even if I'm looking straight onto the screen, the emphasis is my communication should be effective enough that it gets, it cuts into the masses, and people should be able to understand every word carefully. Only then this whole, webinar makes sense. Again, when you talk about non-verbal behavior, you've actually, gone through these. Most of the things have been taught also. Your posture, touch, body movements, they're very important. Facial expressions are important. Gaze, eye contact, first appearance, extremely important. Paralanguage, stammering is something which is considered as a real bad thing. You should not stammer when you are speaking. And trust me, stammering can be avoided very carefully if you make your language very simple. The moment you try to, pick up some words which are dictionary oriented, or something which has to be picked up from Webster's or from Oxford Dictionary, you will definitely stammer. So use words which you are comfortable with and which can help you communicate effectively. And visual aids, so all of them constitute the non-verbal behavior. Talking fundamentals should be always audible, visible, at the same time lucid and interesting. When you talk about lucidity, it also depends on two important factors: the structure of your talk and the organization. Both of them are important. Your interest, again, is going to depend on all these factors: the contents, eye contact, variety of interaction, activity, diagrams, audio visual, so on and so forth. So in the olden days, people did not have so many audio visual capabilities. So I remember that I have also we have learned from OHPs, the overhead projectors. There was a time when people used to prepare slides or transparencies, and then that was placed on the OHP. Now nobody uses an OHP because you've got a wonderful set which is called as a PowerPoint, which is available on Apple and all its variants, even on Microsoft Word, everywhere. But that was not so true, beforehand. People did not have that much of privilege, but still they used audiovisual aids in order to ensure that they could communicate their complete conversation, the talk, the essence, everything was communicated to people. And always remember, slight amount of humor. A smile, this is possibly the only thing, a smile on your face, which is not going to attract any sort of an income tax. So keep smiling in between. You don't have to pay an income tax for that. So when you go for conference presentation, always keep these certain basic things. When you go for any presentation for any leadership or capabilities, always ensure that you should plan. There should be a small rehearsal. Target audience is very important. Whom you are delivering to and what you are delivering to. The duration, your time frame, extremely important. Like for example, I've kept, I'll be very honest in showing, I've kept my wristwatch open right in front of me so that I stick on to my time. So I again go back to my initial slides wherein I had quoted time is to be honored, right? So duration is very important. Location, that is what kind of ethnicity of people you are addressing to, and your speech, which should be slow, varied, and all the formal and the verbal and non-verbal gestures are taken care of. So these are some of the instructional strategies, wherein you can connect to the maximum set of people. This can be divided into either storytelling, inverted pyramid, chunking, or advanced organizer. Advanced organizer is for those set of people. It can be either expository or comparative, wherein expository is for those set of people who have little or almost no knowledge. So when you come to BBA first year, you have just come from your school level. So the instructional language is expository, but the moment you get into masters, which is MBA, you get into comparative. Why? Because it is known that you already know the fundamentals of management. So the instructional strategies at master's level eventually become comparative in nature. Chunking is wherein you gather the similar set of events. Inverted pyramid is how do you come down to the final set of a conclusion by reading and by going through one by one horizontally, layer by layer. Storytelling is always a format wherein we try to connect to maximum set of people so that there is a certain introduction of the characters. Then what do the characters do? It's a complete storytelling format, whether that is for a book, that is for a presentation, for anything, in order to connect to the maximum. Again, you've got a, when you talk about connecting to maximum set of people, please always use this principle, which is called 5 hat rack for information, wherein we always club the information into 5 capabilities or into 5 different distinct dimensions, which is category, time, location, alphabet, and continuum. So category is either that these are the set of diversified aids wherein you have to categorize things. Time, what time, when to deliver, where to deliver, that has to be ensured. Location, what kind of ethnicity, again, that is important. Alphabets is when you are writing down something, you should always restrict to that you're not using too much of puns, you are not getting off track in your alphabets, you are using capital words when, as and when needed. So language writing is important. And continuum is, it should not become over long, but the information should also be conveyed when you are writing down something, because your writing skills are equally important. Now, every time when you go for a presentation, I'm sure most of your teachers must have always emphasized, please wear good clothes. And that is why, they must have given you a dress code, that there is a formal dress code that you have to wear when you go for a job interview, when you go for group discussion. So I'm taking this classic example. This dates back to around 1965 and 70, around 1970s. Students might not be aware of it, so I'll just add the 2 people. Onto your left is John F. Kennedy, and onto your right is Ronald Reagan. They are the 2 former presidents of United States of America. Ronald Reagan was running for presidency for the second term, and John F. Kennedy had just picked up. He was a very young and dynamic person, and people were actually it was not very favorable, but he was very attractive and charming a personality. Now, why is it that people always say that wear good clothes? Your first appearance is very important. So this was an age, 1960s and 70s, when 2 technologies were competing and they were, going ahead. One, the erstwhile transistors. Well, many of you might not have heard of the term transistors, so let me simplify it. It is something which is called as the older version of FM radios. And the second term is there was a rise of television set. People were moving from black and white television set to colored television set. Context of this image now I'll come up. Now in US president elections, if you have again gone through the complete election process of Joe Biden and Trump, I'm so sorry, Donald Trump, there is a very classical and last move which is called as the last presidential debate, which constitutes the maximum effectiveness of garnering votes. And that is very important. So this image is taken from that last presidential debate. What happened? Ronald Reagan, those days was not well, and he was running on fever, and he wore a very dull suit. You can actually see that the color of his suit is very dull. Contrary, John F. Kennedy was, he was very good looking. At the same time, he wore very vibrant colored suit. He wore a very vibrant suit. So what happened? Those people who were listening to the debate on transistors casted their vote in favor of Ronald Reagan. But most of the people, because the technology was changing and people were buying more and more colored television set, they've casted their vote for John F. Kennedy. And this coined the new term, which is called attractiveness bias. It's not necessary to be good looking, but it is extremely important to be presentable so that you present yourself well. Your first impression is the last impression. Always keep that in mind. So that comes in attractiveness bias. There's something called as facism ratio. And this is something very prevalent, which goes ahead in the modern, internet technology, wherein, we are conducting webinars. If you take a facism ratio of 0.96 of this lady, the kind of representation of things that we have, or the character sketch which is drawn, is that there is an intellect associated with this lady. But by the time when you go to a facism ratio of 0.37, that talks of sensuous nature of this particular female. So your facism ratio in your presentation is extremely important when you are using a certain audiovisual aid. That's again very, very important. Always remember, when you read a document or when you prepare any slide, we always follow the Gutenberg's diagram and the Higgs law. And what does it state? That the time taken for a decision increases as the number of alternate increases. And always remember, the Gutenberg diagram says that you read from the top of your left and you culminate your reading onto the bottom of your right. So when you prepare a PPT, always ensure that the logo of your institute should be always on your left top, and that should not be somewhere onto the bottom. That's a wrong trend. If somebody does that, please correct. Your logo of your institute is your identity, and that has to be into the primary optical area. So whenever you prepare a presentation, your primary optical area should be the key elements of your presentation, your basic introduction, which is your college logo or your title, so on and so forth. Now, this is basically based on how we follow the reading practice. And if you put too much of text, then people will not be able to connect at all. So they will eventually get so much of alternatives that either they will listen or they will read. They'll do one of the two things, but they will not do both. So always keep minimal text, but maximum your image or whatever, in bullet form, if you can keep, but always from left to right orientation. That is how the reading principle and fundamentals grow. Highlighting and spacing, again, is very important when you read a document, when you write a document. So when you talk about highlighting and spacing, I'm keeping two important things. One is proportional, the second is monospace. So proportional is based on the occupancy of this particular alphabet, the space is occupied. So if you observe, R is occupying less space, I is occupying less space as compared to P and capital P. Monospace is when you read the complete document where all alphabets have the same amount of space taken. Now, where are they important and crucial? When I have to read something very, very fast, if I have to read something very fast, I can, eyes are more sensitive to proportional space reading. So when you create a slide, always ensure that your presentation skills should always be proportional, right? Monospace reading is created when you are practicing something. So monospace reading goes where? Cursive handwriting books. That is where you have to teach, right? That is where people have to learn. So there monospace goes as more prevalent than proportional. Immersion is extremely important. That, you might have felt, I'm sure most of the students must have seen Bahubali not once, twice, thrice, but many number of times. It was a fantasy amongst people to watch Bahubali. Trust me, when I've asked this question to my students also, everybody said that, sir, when we saw Bahubali, we could not even make out that 3 or 3.5 hours, odd hours have just passed on. It just felt as if we had entered the hall and we are just walking out of right now. So we could not make out that for 3.5 hours, that span has just, flown past. This is called immersion. Your immersion should be your capability in which you are delivering a complete content in such a way that everybody is immersed into it. They are completely engaged into it. So one of the technology examples that we have is virtual reality and artificial intelligence. So you must have seen a lot of people, wearing big glasses, games that have been brought up for children. They wear big, glasses, and then, they are into a different world altogether. And the seats also keep rolling in. So, whether you are jumping or you are taking a roll or you're moving to the right, left, whatever, based on that, the complete thing changes, the orientation changes. So that's called virtual reality. And that is where immersion process is also included. So when you deliver a content, please ensure that the immersion should be maximized. People should be connected to you throughout. Only then your complete presentation makes sense. So that's one of the traits. Storytelling format, when I just said that, you have to make things in the form of a story. When you're presenting something, it should be setting of stage, introduce the characters, then come to the main plot, then come to invisibility of storyteller, that, who is, virtually disclosing the story, that person should move out of the complete frame, and then the mood changes and movement of the characters. Again, this is something, if you want to check out, please pick up any new TV serial which is coming. You will actually find that, people are first narrating the stage and the characters, and then eventually the plot starts. So that is the storytelling format in which your complete presentation has to be highlighted. Okay, when you write and thought, please ensure that this should be connected with this. Now, that is your brain, your mind should be connected to your writing. What you are writing has to be a conscious decision of what you are thinking. Both of them have to be connected, and they have to be connected by the bridge, which is called as choice of words. So your writing and thinking both have to go hand in hand, and that has to be properly construed by the choice of your words. Always remember, the last statement is very important. Procrastination is a sin. Never procrastinate your work. If you procrastinate, it's a wrong trend that you're setting for your own self. Never do that. Never procrastinate. Always emphasize that, what work has to be done has to be accomplished, at that point of time itself. Honor time. It's very, very important. Use as much of illustrations as possible so that, people can connect. More and more people can, know about your work. So illustration is extremely important. Text should be always less. When you present, your illustration should be more. So, why does it go is, there is a beautiful, again, a kind of a metaphor which goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So always put a picture, explain. Let the readers read, but your explanation should depend on what you are projecting. So your illustrations are extremely important. Okay, this is one of the last set of slides that I have, which is, expectation effect, and wherein you're complete conscious of, taking care of the fact that your leadership or your delivery always has to be taken into account. There are 4 important expectation effects that we have. One is called halo effect. That is the tendency or an impression created in one area wherein we influence opinion in another area. That means, so what happens is, I develop a certain impression that this person is possibly good or this is not good. And this goes as a generic trend within me. So that is called halo effect. Hawthorne is the alteration of behavior wherein we ensure that somebody is not made conscious. For example, suddenly if somebody amongst the students pop out the first question in the interactive session, sir, what is your age? That is going to make me conscious. Now that is called Hawthorne effect. So you have to ensure that somebody is not made deliberately conscious when you are recording observations or when you are delivering something, right? So you have to always ensure that the Hawthorne effects are taken into account. Somebody might be blind, but if you go and ask the person directly that since when have you been blind, the person will become conscious. So if you have to connect to any set of people, please ensure that you're not hitting the pain points. You first interact, make them comfortable, and then you continue with the conversation. Third is the Pygmalion or the Rosenthal effect, which goes with a certain vicious circle, the phenomena where higher expectation lead to an increase in performance. And this actually connects to the last section, which is called placebo. That is the psychological phenomena in which recipient perceives an improvement in condition due to personal expectations. So what happens is, in Rosenthal effect, when Munna Bhai MBBS came, people, picked up a certain expectation that this, pair is going to do very well. And so the expectations with Lage Raho Munna Bhai when it came became even higher. And that was also met. That is called Rosenthal effect. So we created a kind of, a decision in our mind frame, and that was raised as a bar the next time when we went to watch the extension of that particular movie. So every time you are raising your complete actions, your deeds, your capabilities by virtue of the expectation level. Placebo effect is, there is something which interesting. I'm sure you must have come across sugar patients in your family. Now, when you have a sugar patient, be ready with one thing. It's a disease which you have to fight from here, your mental capability. If you have stress, your sugar levels will increase, your blood glucose level will increase. But if you work in less stress, if your stress levels are lower, then automatically your sugar is balanced. This is placebo effect, wherein we ensure that the expectation of my own self, my own capabilities help me in healing my own self, so I'm able to improve my own quality of life. So that is placebo effect. So this brings me down to almost the complete discussion that we had. And I'm so happy, ma'am. Nausheen ma'am was very tense. So all 2 hours is completely taken into account. Nausheen ma'am, I'm sure you do not have any complaint, at least from that side. We talked
No,
about
exactly.
so we
Not
talked
exact.
about almost like soft skills, traits. We
Yeah.
talked about leadership. We talked about excellence and how it has to be achieved in a very nutshell way. Although this is a very detailed learning process, but in a nutshell, whatever is needed, what are the traits expected, those all things we have talked of in the complete, session. So I keep the house open for questions, ma'am.
Yeah, I think you already have a question from Shalini. She's asking, can a cruel person who's leading can be called a leader, or is he called a bad leader? I think she must be referring to thinking about Hitler.
Hitler.
Because Hitler was a good communicator.
Okay, so I'll counter Shalini you with one, there is something which I'll tell you about Hitler and his background. First, yes, Hitler's biggest sin was genocide, the genocide, and something which we actually call of is Holocaust. So I had the opportunity to visit Poland and the extermination
Auschwitz.
center and the Auschwitz, ma'am, exactly, the Auschwitz. And Auschwitz, the way he actually exterminated people. Very true. Always remember, if you are positive in your life, you can pick up something good out of every person, even the worst. Every coin has two sides. So what we see in Hitler is his decision wherein he was over ambitious and he wanted to conquer the whole world. One thing which you have to appreciate about Hitler, despite all odds, is a fact that 1918, when Germany lost the First World War, Hitler as a leader brought Germany back to its toes by 1939 to wage the Second World War. So that's a good thing. He alone had that capability to ensure that people were on track. Decisions were wrong. Yes, I do agree that Holocaust was something. Auschwitz Center, which Madam just referred, absolutely correct, was a very big, cynic decision. He was actually mentally sick from that side, if you look on. But the good part of that person, in 20 years, he brought a complete country's economy back on tracks so that they could wage the Second World War all alone without anybody's support. The decision was wrong, was Holocaust, and of course that he attacked Russia in the winters. Second contribution which Hitler had, technology.
Yeah.
When you talk about radar, when you talk about submarine, they are all contributions which came from Germany during the Second World War. So his contribution was technology. Had this war not taken place, people would not be, they would not have been made conscious that we should go for technology and we should improve our own lifestyle. So take the good out of people. Yes, decisions were wrong. I will never support, Holocaust as a decision which he had taken. But the good part of Hitler also you should take, wherein he had the capability of driving the Germans to such an extent that they could, come back to their toes. The economy could come back from 1918 and revived in 1939. That is something which you should learn from him as a good part.
Students, just unmute yourself, and if you have any questions,
Yeah,
you can
Mubina
ask.
has a question.
Yeah, Rubina.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, it was really a great experience listening to you, and we really learned a lot, sir. So, actually, I need a suggestion regarding once we start building our careers, we may come up with some of the conflicts and obstacles also. So, what can be a motivation for us, sir, to manage our team as well as ourselves to be a good leader?
There is a wonderful topic which is called as conflict management, because in Hindi we always quote, there's a small example, jahan do bartan hai wo khatkenge. So that is when you have got two utensils which are absolutely, which do not have anything, they are definitely going to, when they hit, it's going to create a noise. So conflicts are to be always, so for that patience is important, and second, listening skills is very important. you know I always tell my students, please have the habit of listening before speaking. And by the way, this is not my word, this comes back again from a great philosopher of our age, age beforehand, age before our independence, Swami Vivekanand. He had quoted, he is a good speaker who is a good listener. So please listen, please have patience. Only then you will be able to outcast the conflicts, and that will help you improve your skills as well as soft skills both, in order to go ahead with your leadership capabilities. Again, from his example, the Chicago summit, which he had actually gone for, he was given a 10-minute slot. He went on to go ahead for 1.5 days. 1.5 days against 10 minutes. Now that is called excellence and his leadership capabilities. A 10-minute slot was converted to a 1.5 days of lecture in the All Religious Summit. So again, he was a very good speaker, but he was an excellent listener also, right? Always keep that in mind.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any, yeah, Kripa, unmute yourself. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir,
Yeah, good
thank you, sir, for your valuable time. We learned so many unknown things today. Sir, I have a question that what leadership skills do you find the most useful in our daily life? And also, I have a question that how can a leader fail in their life, sir?
How can a leader
Fail in their lives.
fail in their life? Excellent.
Yeah, I know. That's a very interesting question.
So
Leaders
again,
failing.
I'll go back to I'll take my own example. For my own PhD. So let me tell you, if somebody is planning out a PhD, बहुत confidential way में बोल रहा हूँ, be very careful, huh? Picking up PhD as your, picking up PhD as a career. There was a time when, I had, given up on certain fabrication and technological issues. But there's something, because you talk about innovation, you talk about researching on a lot of things, and that creates you a lot of mental pressure and stigma on your mind. There is a time when you actually, this is a common case which every PhD student undergoes. So we have got all PhD faculty members here. I'm sure all of you can correlate and connect at one point of time when you must have also thought of quitting PhD completely and run out from there.
Many times.
It's there. Many a times it happens. So during my PhD, it just so happened that I wanted to fabricate something. I wanted to make a prototype. And I was not able to get this proper set of machines. Where did I find a solution? I went to an Indian craftsman and I went and told him that, can you help me make an abridged version of this particular prototype, which he did only by virtue of his simple tools that he had in his hands. And that helped me achieve my PhD degree, because that particular prototype helped me get my research paper in IEEE journals. And by virtue of that, I got my PhD degree. So when you talk about failures, failure is a part of life. You will always have failures. Please be ready that the biggest obstacle of your life is your failure. The question is not about, from where the failure comes. The question is, how do you recuperate from that particular failure? Do you have the capability of taking criticism? Because whosoever has been, one example again I'll take up, whosoever so far in the Indian history has been the prime minister of this country have undergone criticism, right from the first prime minister to the current prime minister. Do you have the capability of taking the prime minister and correcting your decisions? That makes you a good leader. If you can correct yourself from the failures, you learn from the past, and then you go ahead. right? So this is what you have to keep in mind. Failures will definitely come, but you have to assess the failure and correct yourself. That's extremely important.
I think so.
Thank you, sir.
I think you have asked one more question, right, regarding the
Second.
qualities.
Yes, ma'am.
Quality. My favorite movie, which I always tell my students, Three Idiots. Run after excellence, success will follow. So that should be the key mantra of your life. Please don't run after grades. Your marks are not a reflection of your capability. Please run after excellence. Achieve as much as possible by virtue of your excellence. Improve by virtue of your excellence, and then deliver by virtue of your excellence. You will be always successful. You will be always successful. Please, learn something, by virtue of a holistic mindset. That today when I'm, going to my class, there is really something, an interesting topic that will possibly hit me, and that will help me learn something. Have a holistic mindset that will help you build your, best trait. So run after excellence. That's the key success, the key mantra to success.
Thank you, sir. But excellence is a very broad word. Can you list out certain traits which are very important for the students? The present, they are the MBA students. If you can,
Ma'am, one place wherein I always emphasize is practice.
okay.
There are a lot of the key element for excellence or for anything when you go for is practice. An example for practice which I quote is, please go to the kitchen. That's the best example of running, of learning something. Why? See, my dear students, you must have always observed, uh, pick up a small dish, maybe paneer, and you want to cook it out of your own for the first time. And the first set of comparison that you draw is that my mother cooks it so well, why can't I? What has she used so special? Did she use some specific, some ingredients? Were there some spices which she added, something which was specific and she did not tell you? Was it a knife which was used in a different way? No, it was the same knife. It is the same set of ingredients. It is the same set of spices which she has used and even you have used. But still, that there's a difference in taste. Why? There's a practice which has come up. She has been practicing that art for so long that now she has excelled in that particular domain. So more you practice, the more you'll be able to excel. When you excel, you move to excellent. When you become excellent, you garner excellence. So please keep this trend of practice. One thing which we always tell our students at the ab initio, when they learn tables for the first time, 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4, 2 threes are 6, 2 fours are 8. And what is the first set of instruction that parents pass on? Please spell out loudly, as loud as you can when you are learning the tables, right? When you're learning ABCD, A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, it has to be as loud as possible and repeat it as many number of times. Again, that's the trend which is called as practice. More you practice, you excel. So find out your strength, practice, and then excel.
Yeah, Tayyiba?
Yes, ma'am. Firstly, I really thank to Dr. Mukherjee for this valuable and worth it explanation. And I have a question to Mr. Mukherjee that in this critical situation, can we know, Dr. Mukherjee, what are the most important attributes of successful leaders wherein due to the pandemic, we are in very less contact physically? What do you see on this?
Excellent question that you have found, that what are the traits in this pandemic situation. The first thing which you will observe is, if you observe any of the ministry meetings or any sort of documentation which comes out from the ministry, whether that is at state level or central government, is following the protocols, rules and regulations. All the protocols have been followed. See, if at the ministry level you find out that the ministers themselves are getting pally and they are getting into the comfort zone of each other, and they are standing hand by shoulder to shoulder with each other, on their hand, and not wearing the mask, that sends a wrong message. So when it comes to leadership, the first is, before enforcing a certain protocol on the population, am I following it? Am I following the practices? So that is where comes your first leadership traits. Before you expose the masses for any set of rules and regulations, you have to be self-aware about things, and you have to maintain that particular protocol. So self-awareness is the first set of leadership wherein, you know, this pandemic has actually taught us. Your self-awareness is very, very important in if you want to go ahead with a leadership, specifically with respect to the pandemic situation.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. It was nice.
Pratibha, just unmute yourself. Are you here? Just she dropped the question in the chat box. Yeah.
Madam, I am drafting and listening, but that is the reason I have raised my question in the chat box.
What is the difference
Okay,
between a
okay.
leader and a
Yeah,
manager?
her question is, yeah,
What is the difference between a leader and a manager?
a leader and a manager.
No, please be a good leader. Don't be a good manager. I've been, you know, emphasizing this on my slides also. When you talk about difference of a leader, the leader is supposed to lead you through, create a vision for you. A manager is supposed to only ensure that the word is that the given task is properly executed. So manager has to graduate as a leader. A leader is already a graduated form, but the manager actually has to graduate in terms of an effective leader, right? Dr. Noshin, you need to unmute yourself for the question.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Rachna?
So you have been mentioning about the research papers that you students at PhD do. So we as MBA students, do we have a chance anything such related sources that we could go for?
Plenty. Even management schools has its own set of research papers which you can actually undergo. And in fact, given the current set of the current condition, the the institutions of Government of India and state government have been strictly advised by the Science and Engineering Research Board, by Department of Science and Technology, to open the e-access of their libraries and journals for all students who are available anywhere. In fact, there are a lot of different ways like Gyan Shodh also, wherein you can actually log in yourself, you can register yourself, and you can get any sort of an information. So far research papers are concerned, journals are concerned. A lot of journals during this situation have also mandatorily made their research papers open access, so that, you know, anybody can download their papers and they can read it. Plus, there are a lot of activities which are going on to assess the management effects on of COVID-19, on how the managerial, the complete proposition is changing in the given situation. There's a lot of research which is going on. A lot of IM faculties are also working in this particular domain, so you can always download and you can connect to them. Always, it's always welcome.
Are you talking about the institutions or organizations, Rachna? Are you talking about the research papers?
Yeah, institutions, ma'am, for this.
Now, are you interested in writing or reading? That's the main thing.
Yeah, I that was my next question, ma'am. I would like to write.
Yeah,
So
for that you just need to put in some effort.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. That's in fact a wonderful answer. The first thing is, you have, in order to write, you have to first acquire the knowledge and then you have to write. So you can always do it. In fact, anybody can always write. That's always an open forum. It's always an open forum.
Thank you,
I think
sir.
you have quite a few questions, Dr. Mukherjee.
There is one more question that is lined up from Krupa. Krupa, please unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, this question is from our friend Divyani, sir. Actually, she was attending through YouTube. So she asked me to ask you. Her question is that how do leaders keep themselves motivated in difficult times?
Oh, that's a great question.
Self-motivation. Now, this is really something which I have been also asking quite a lot of my own colleagues, and very recently I met Professor T. I did not meet, but I had a webinar, a visual chat with one of the great leaders, an authority in this particular domain, Professor TVR Rao. And I've been asking him that, sir, what keeps you motivated? He said, Vishwajit, your dedication towards what you want to achieve will keep you motivated. Your craving and your hunger to achieve excellence will actually keep you motivated. If you know that there is a certain excellence that you want to strive for, trust me, even after retirement from IIM Ahmedabad at the age of 72, I'm still in a learning process. I still feel I'm still only acquiring as much of knowledge. So that's your self-motivation your capability to achieve more and more excellence will actually keep you driving towards.
Yeah, I'd like to add a point here, Dr. Mukherjee. I think it's not about a crisis or anything. I think a leader is self-motivated at any point of time. As you, it doesn't require a crisis for one to get in touch with, to be self-motivated. So,
very true, madam.
As you rightly pointed out, dedication to your work.
Very true.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
I think they must have stopped. No more questions.
Sir, I do have a question. Sir, what kind of leadership style is yours, sir?
I would call it balance between two important parts. Number one, a discipline. I really maintain a certain discipline. That's why, when Dr. Nausheen said that, sir, I'm giving you 11:15 to 1:15, I showed my wristwatch that no, time has to be honored, that 2 hours has to be ensured. So discipline is important. Sometimes for discipline, people do misinterpret that, I'm getting too harsh. But second is humor. You should always have a certain humor in life. I do find out time to at least watch one movie, in maybe a week or 10 days, so that you can relax your mindset. Relaxing is extremely important. Otherwise, this will become, your mind will only become a complete factory of, churning out things. Relax your mind, follow a strict discipline schedule. If you have that, and run after excellence, that's all. Just run after excellence, nothing else. Garner more and more excellence. If you do that, I'm sure you'll be successful in every domain. That's my style mantra.
Thank you so much, sir.
So one more question, Yamuna. Yamuna, unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for valuable information, sir, which have given for us. Sir, I have a doubt that I have a question that, like, what does the quality does a leader need to have to sustain in the society?
What does the leader need to have quality in order to
sustain in the society? Like they need
to
sustain in a society. Yes. See, for societal values, the first thing is your self-hesitation.
Unmute, Yamuna. Yeah. Sorry, sir.
No, that's okay. See, the first thing is always your self-barriers, your self-awareness, your self-barriers, that has to be broken. When you want to work in a societal level, the first thing is you have to, charity always begins at home. So you have to first improve yourself in order to connect to the masses. So when you go for a societal level, you have to first become a part of that particular societal setup and then start contributing. So your self-awareness is very important. Breaking the jinx is very important. So it has to start from your own self. Only then you can connect to the maximum set of people in and around you.
So there is one more question from Krupa. She's asking that what leadership skills do you find most useful in our daily life?
When you talk about leadership skills and soft skills, there's such a long list.
Yes.
There's such a long list, but one thing which I would always emphasize is if you bring discipline into your practice, that's the first set of things which you need to do. If you are talking about, what I've generally found is that the students are getting so lazy though these days. I do not, it's not a point that I'm, hitting on, but, generally students have lost a track of getting up early in the morning, dressing
Absolutely.
up nicely and then going ahead for they have a certain value that no, I have to go to my class, I have to attend a lecture. That please ensure should remain a part of your life till you are educating yourself or you are going ahead with any organizational setup. So discipline is very important. That does not mean that you should not have enjoyment. There's plenty of time, 24 hours you are getting in a day. So you will definitely find time for enjoyment. Mischief is also, a part of life. One should be mischievous. It's very important. If you're not mischievous, you're missing humor in your life. Don't be indisciplined. Just don't be indisciplined. Just maintain the certain discipline of your life. I'm sure that, you can go ahead with success also.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Any more questions?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question.
Just introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, sir. My name is Soumya. And I'm very thankful for the very valuable session that you've taken us through. So my question today is, as leaders, we will always have to deal with a group of people. Say out of 10, from 10, we probably will be able to motivate 8 of them. There'll always be 1 or 2 people who will not be, so motivated by us. They'll always feel they are the better fit for the job. So how do we deal with those kind of people? Do we, consider changing our, way of management, or shall we change ourselves for them, or how do we handle such people?
No, the first thing which you have to keep in mind is that any decision which is always rolled out is for the benefit of maximum set of people. Now, when you talk about maximum set of people, if 8 people are convinced out of 10, then the majority is with you. That means the decision taken is correct. We call this as, in a race of time and technology, time has to win. We always call that, right? In a race of time and technology, time has to win. Now, why do I quote it over here? There may be some decisions which people might not be agreeing to initially, but then with gradual course of time, people feel that no, the decision taken was correct. Example of that I'll take. Again, a great leader, a thinker and a philosopher we had was in Delhi. We had our former chief minister, Srimati Sheila Dikshit. Now, Sheila Dikshit's first challenge was rolling out metro in Delhi city. And trust me, when you talk about Delhi as a city, because you people are in Hyderabad, I'm sure you must have been to Charminar, which is
Nikita,
very,
I want you to call me tomorrow, Nikita.
Which is a very congested area. Same way in Delhi, you've got Chandni Chowk, right?
What time? You can call me around 11 o'clock. Yeah, okay. Right.
Neela ma'am?
Yes?
Your mic is on, ma'am.
Yeah.
Power cut, I think, from the speaker's end.
Try to reach out to him.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he's come back.
Okay.
Dr. Mukherjee?
Yeah, he's there. Dr. Mukherjee?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, actually it just got disconnected.
Okay.
It just got disconnected. Yeah. So the only example that I was taking previously on this particular part was that when Sheila Dikshit rolled out the metro, she had a trouble in rolling out metro from the congested areas of Delhi. So there was a blunt and a strict decision which was taken so that metro pillars could be created and underground metros could actually be laid in the congested part of the city. So people initially, violated the norms and they were actually against it. But now when the complete metro has been rolled out in whole of Delhi, people praise her for that decision. So sometimes you have to take a decision which is harsh, but if the decision is meant for maximal set of people, for the good and benefit of maximum set of people, please go ahead. For the rest of the leftover people, trust me, when the decision and its repercussions are being adjudged, they are being assessed, they also will become a part of that good decision and fraternity only. So don't get so stressed out because that, you have to leave 2 people out of 10. Don't worry about them. Worry about the 8 set of people who have to be given the benefits and who have agreed to trust on you.
Answers my question, sir. Thank you so much.
Any other questions which are lined up?
I think maybe any more questions, girls?
No, ma'am.
No more.
Even from the YouTube also? Okay.
I think no more questions coming out your way, Dr. Mukherjee. But I just wanted to thank you so much. It was so engrossing. It was so engaging. And I think I really enjoyed your presentation and your talk. Everything was so terrific. It was very compelling listening to you. more than viewing, it's compelling listening to you. It was terrific. And I think I really liked it, the way you interspersed with examples, personal examples. I think that's what connects us to our audience, as you rightly mentioned, because it looks like you and I are the same. We are not some kind of different species altogether. So I think, especially your mother's example, I think I really loved it, because it actually talks about a mother's love, and at the same time, you know, how she was able to break the age barrier about technology and the general belief that we have about age. People of a certain age are not very comfortable with technology. I think she broke that stereotype, and it's a great example. And of course, Abdul Kalam's example was terrific. And I think the way you connected communication and leadership, and that's something which I really loved, and specifically your stress on excellence, because that's what I've grown up with. That's what my father instilled. He used to make us write huge letters, and then we used to draft and draft and draft. So I think it resonates so well with me. So it's been a terrific, and I would love, I'd like to, if I would love you to have us in person in Hyderabad when this lockdown is lifted. So I think we'd like to be in touch with you, and we'd like to have many more sessions from you. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure having you. Thank you.
Dr. Mukherjee, there is a question from, I think, unmute Durga. Durga, are you here? Please unmute yourself.
Ma'am.
Yeah. You're audible, just.
Sir, if two people possess same leadership quality, then how can we show that we are better than them? If both have same skills.
Naushin ma'am, can you get the question to me, ma'am? Because I think it's not.
Yeah, okay, fine. Can you repeat the question, Durga?
Ma'am, if two people have same leadership qualities, then how can we show that we are better than them if some situation that picking only one leader?
Okay. She's asking a question that if I didn't get the question very clear, but what I have understood, I'm just telling you that the question is, if two leaders or two people have the same leadership qualities, now how can we assess or judge on a particular situation that who is better? That whether A is better or whether B is better. So on what grounds that we can assess?
One thing which you have to keep in mind is
that Durga is okay, sir. Continue.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Get one thing very straight. Leadership has nothing to do with a competition. I'll give you another example of two great scientists and that India had, and they were both contemporaries, Meghnad Saha and Satyendranath Bose. Now, Meghnad Saha has worked in elementary physics, and Satyendranath Bose has worked in nuclear physics, and both of them have been contemporaries, and they have contributed significantly. So if they are great leaders, they will not compete. None of them, they compete. They are going to remain and stand shoulder to shoulder. So the question does not come that, who is a better leader of the two? The question is, how do both of these great leaders contribute? Right? So the question of comparison or question of competition does not exist in that case. If you run after excellence, you will not run after a competition, or you will not run after a certain comparison. Please keep that always in mind.
Okay.
Does that answer you?
Durga?
She's written okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Okay. Yamuna?
Ma'am, Yamuna is not there, ma'am.
Okay. Now I will call Shalini Bora to give the word of thanks. Shalini? Unmute yourself. Shalini?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to one and all. I'm here to present.
Your voice is not audible, Shalini.
Sorry, ma'am. 1 minute, ma'am. Ma'am, is it audible now?
No. Can you be loud?
Is it better now, ma'am?
A little bit, just. Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, okay, continue.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm here to present the vote of thanks for the leadership session by.
No, Shalini, your voice is not audible.
So sorry, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, first of all, so sorry for this inconvenience. And I'm here to present the vote of thanks for the leadership session by Dr. Vishwajit Mukherjee. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your immense knowledge and letting us know every element about the leadership. I always had a question about whether I'm a leader or I am not, or whether leadership can be learned or it cannot be. You made very clear about everything, that leadership is not going to be easy. We have to first have knowledge, we have to lead, we have to excel, and we have to have a vision. Not just vision, we have to vision with purpose. So here today, you had answered all the questions today. I asked you a question about whether a leader can, a cruel person who leads can be a leader or no. You have answered it very correctly. Whether whatever your vision is, you should do something good, or something good that makes you, that determines that you are doing something with some purpose. So thank you so much for having this session for us, sir. And thank you so much, Director Neela ma'am. Thank you, Noshin ma'am. And thank you, dear faculty. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, everybody who joined in this group.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Noshin, special thanks to you for contacting Dr. Mukherjee and ensuring that he comes in on board, and then he's delivered. And I think from all the questions that the students have asked, Dr. Mukherjee, you don't require any more feedback. The questions themselves are an indicator. So how interesting your session was. So terrific. I think I also would like to
sessions.
yeah,
More
I
sessions
just
with him, ma'am.
yeah, definitely. No, as you rightly pointed out, Dr. Mukherjee, I think these online, we were forced to do these ATL FDPs by AICTE. And I think through that, as you said, this Vasudhaika Kutumbakam became a reality in 2020.
Yes.
And so these webinars that we are able to connect, otherwise, we would have been meeting only in conferences in physical space. Now that we are meeting in virtual space, we seem to have traveled across the world. So we are able to really get hold of such wonderful people such as you. So it's so, and I think that's when Noshin actually mentioned she came across you when she attended a faculty development program. So I think I'd like to thank AICTE also. Usually, they don't get much, they receive a lot of flack. So this time, I think whatever they've done, they seem to have done a good job.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, sir, just wait a minute. I want all the students to turn on their videos for a photograph or for a pic. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hope all of you have filled the feedback form, students, which has been dropped in the chat box and even in the YouTube.
And in YouTube, can you drop the link again, ma'am? Many were not accessible, and as I don't have a channel, I couldn't post.
Okay.
I dropped you the link.
Kiranmai, can you do that?
Yeah.
Kiranmai?
Ma'am, is it audible?
Nausheen, I'd like to exit the meeting. I have some
Yes,
work.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful session, Nausheen.
Thank you,
I think
ma'am.
we really got hold of a nice resource person.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did you fill the feedback form?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Kiranmai, ma'am.
Just send that one in the YouTube link also.
Yeah, I dropped it in the chat box if you have seen. I can send you once again if you are not finding it.
Those who have filled the form, that they can leave the session.
Okay, ma'am. Where is the feedback form link?
I dropped it in the chat box.
In the
once
chat
again,
box.
ma'am.
It is there in the chat box.
Ma'am, I have submitted the response. Can I leave now?
Yeah. You can.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Noshin.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Aruna.
Nausheen.
Hi, Kiran.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Shobha, ma'am.
Yeah, you can drop the form in the WhatsApp groups as well as
I did that. Even so.
Because most of them would, you said the WhatsApp
Yes,
group
ma'am,
was
yes.
created, right? For all the participants.
And Nausheen, ma'am, I think we can stop the recording now.
Yeah, I will do that.
You can drop the form in the WhatsApp groups as well as.
I did that. Even so.
Because most of them would, you said the WhatsApp group was created, right? For all participants.
Kiranmai, ma'am.
And Nausheen, ma'am, I think we can
You should mute your mic. Like YouTube